Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 183, I think. I'm Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up, people?
And Connor's here as well.
Would it really kill Pete to just check before he starts instead of after every time going?
No, it's part of the charm.
I prefer it this way.
Yeah,
because then if he's wrong, he looks dumb.
Just say it with some confidence.
Matt's an agent of chaos, that's what that is.
I am.
Yeah,
I am chaotic neutral sometimes. Sometimes chaotic good.
Yeah, well, I did that in television with the Multiverse last week. I actually had the number wrong by 10, but I thought I was right, so it was,
See?
it was, you know,
and
it
then,
was...
And then he looks dumb, and it's great.
Did I call you out on it?
No, you didn't notice.
No, damn it. I thought I wasn't listening to you.
Hey, Connor.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know what I found out this week?
Oh, it's going to be a Star Wars thing.
How'd you know?
I'm good, Matt. I can read the minds.
That in Fallen Order, you can collect the same parts that you used to build the lightsabers in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
So now I know what I need to do.
I completed Fallen Order over the past week, and yeah, it's good. Matt, you'll dig it.
Well, I was watching The Mandalorian this morning because my wife went shopping yesterday, and I didn't see her all day, so we couldn't watch it, and I was very upset.
That bitch.
But when they took down the ATST, I was like, I bet you there's a part in Fallen Order I can do this, and I need to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and an AT too.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I got to make my lightsaber now.
This is a DC Comics podcast. We talk about DC Comics every week.
Pete, I also, after I made said lightsaber, I brought it onto the show. It's fine.
Matt, I would like to actually tell them what the podcast is before we tangent into oblivion. That's all I want. That's all I want in life.
So you want something and I'm preventing you from having it? This is the greatest of all outcomes.
So the DC Comics podcast, we talk about DC Comics every week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Action Comics 1017, The Flash 83, Shazam issue 8, Justice League Dark number 17, Batgirl 41, Freedom Fighters 11, Supergirl Annual number 2, Tales from the Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis number 1, Basketful of Heads number 2. That wraps up the actual new books, and then we have 3 Patreon books to go through this week, mainly because Connor's a menace and left them all to the last week.
That's not entirely true, because I did do one a couple of weeks ago. I just had one to make up.
Yeah, but you could have, I only had one, so it didn't really matter where I put mine. You could have spread yours out.
You knew I was doing mine this week. I said this 2 weeks ago. I'm doing them both this week. You could have done yours last week.
Time got away from me. That's all I'm saying. Hey, in my defense, my book was actually an annual size book that I did not realize was an annual size book, so...
yeah, one of mine was. I'm not sure if it was, but it definitely felt longer. There was back matter too that I happened to read. So that got away.
Yeah, so Connor's going to, and I'll explain the Patreon books when we get there. But Red to the Outlaw 37, Connor's going to talk about. I'm going to talk about American Vampire issue 1, which has a backup story, which is almost as long as the main book. So it's just like a 40-page issue 1,
written by Joe Hill's dad. Some guy named Stephen King.
Written by Joe Hill's dad. Is that really?
I think that's more appropriate, following on from Basketful of Heads.
True. There's a connective tissue there. Maybe see, I was smart to leave my book till this week. There was a connective thread.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Also, you were lazy and put it off like Connor did.
Shut your face, you American idiot.
In my defense, I was working last week.
And then last up, Connor's going to talk about Undiscovered Country issue 1, which is actually Scott Snyder, like American Vampire. So there's a thread there too. I guess.
And Charles Soule.
Yeah.
And Charles Soule. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, the co-writing.
All I know is that Tyler, who's making us read the 2 Snyder books, kept referring to as comics from the Snyderverse was coming up.
That's not a fun name. I don't like that name.
Because it sounds like we're talking about a different Snyder, doesn't it?
That's the thing. No. In context of this show, that would be fine. I mean, it may not be Pete's favorite, but I mean, there's a level of acceptable quality, I think, that we can all agree on.
Hey, I'll take Scott Snyder a million times over Zack Snyder every day of the week. That's not mince words here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not mince words. So yeah, big list of books, that's what we're going to get to. Luckily, there's not really much news or whatever to talk about beforehand. We've done solicits for the month, we've done sales for the month, just a couple of tidbits before we inevitably tangent into things. But I'll just mention there is a delay. Once again, Joker Harley Criminal Sanity issue 2 has been pushed back. And once again, I'm going to complain about this every single time until they change it. Newsarama, their headlines for delays are infuriating to me because they always make it sound like it's been pushed a huge amount again. And what it actually is there's now a total of this in terms of its delay. Because it's the headline reads, Joker Harley Criminal Sanity pushed back 2 months. No. It was already pushed back a month. It's been pushed back another month. Say it properly. It bugs me. Anyway, it's coming out now. On January 1st. It was pushed originally to December 4th. That's when we were expecting it. So it was going to be next week, but now it's going to be that first week in January instead. So
yeah, remember when they thought that was going to be monthly?
No, it's 9 issues as well. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping this doesn't derail the plans too much. I don't want this to kind of get into trouble and end up not happening because I did like the first issue. So hopefully they can hit a stride.
Yeah.
A bi-monthly stride. I'm not expecting miracles, but...
No, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Just consistency would be nice. Connor, you had like an artist change, I think you said.
Yeah, actually, there was another delay. That,
was there?
Batman versus Razagul 4 and 5 have been delayed.
I'm going to go into a because there was actually a couple of giant delays that I just ignored because we don't talk about them. I must have just glossed over this because equally we don't care.
That is fair. For the record, 4 is now January 15th, which was originally solicited for November 20th. And 5 is now February 12th, which isn't as much of a delay. That was originally solicited for January 29th. So probably expect that one to get another delay at some point.
Yeah, okay.
But not too bad. And then there is an artist change for Batman 84. Yanin is off the issue because he was the originally solicited artist, and we are getting Jorge Fornes instead, who has been off and on the book in general, and has been pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad. There was a chance they were going to say John Romita Jr. or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad change. I mean, you might have a preference, don't get me wrong, but it's not a bad artist by any means. It's
not some jobber they're putting in there to fill in for the week.
Yeah, and it'll feel consistent with the book as a whole because he has been a semi-regular guest on the book.
Yeah, it's the penultimate issue. I wonder if it's just because they're putting extra pages in 85 and Yanin's going to be on that, maybe.
Because he is definitely doing 85.
Because Yanin has, I'd probably say out of all the artists in this book, Yanin's probably the one that I associate it with the most. I mean, there's been a few, don't get me wrong, that have been consistently there, but he's the one that I kind of see as the A artist for the book.
Yeah, he's been on it since like the start.
Yeah, it wasn't the first arc. He did the second arc onwards.
No, but he was always announced at the start of the book as one of the main artists.
Yeah, and he's been there the whole time. Yeah. He's never faltered. Whereas, Clayman came in, did a few chunks here or there. Mitch Gerads has come in, done a few chunks here or there, but it's definitely been Yanin all the way through. And Finch has come back a few times. Obviously, there's been some other randomers here or there, but
yeah, like Fornes has done a handful of issues now.
Yeah. So. No, good.
Just, right. Also, Newsarama, sort out your typos because they put the updated solicit and it just says Atman. So, Atman 84.
That's pretty glaring.
It is.
So it's hard not to notice that one. So, yeah, shame on them.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's your little bit of news. So, Matt, how's your week been?
Pretty good. I ate entirely too much over the course of this week.
Over the course of the opening 5 minutes of our phone call, you were eating too much. Matt, when we brought him up on Skype, Matt was sitting eating pumpkin pie, and before I even saw the pie, I saw cream on his beard. That's just how he started the call today.
It's true. I almost dropped it and I had to catch it.
Oh dear.
Again, nobody's above breakfast pie.
I have a winterberry pie in the kitchen that I'm going to have.
Oh, do you? Do you know, actually, do you know what I've got in the freezer? I've got, I can't remember what they were called, this particular brand. It's essentially Magnums. You know those are, Connor. The ice creams with the chocolate around them. But it's like salted caramel inside it, and it's got like macadamia nuts on the outside.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Why I have them right now when it's like -6 outside, I don't know, but like...
Yeah, I get that.
It's weird. I guess I'm trying to lower my body temperature so that I feel more at home, and I'm trying to Mr. Freeze it. I'm trying to become more cold-blooded so that I'll feel more at home in the cold.
More?
Yeah.
How dare you?
It's not particularly. I think it's like apple, blackberry, blackcurrant,
Okay.
and something else is
Gotcha.
in there. All the dark fruits, basically.
Gotcha. I thought maybe there was something called a winterberry.
No, it's just like a mixture of.
Gotcha. It only grows in the winter.
Yeah, sure. I don't really know why they call it that. I think for whatever reason, dark fruits are just associated more with winter as opposed to the summery, tropical fruits.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense.
That's just the default thing, I think,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
In Oregon, they have a thing called a marionberry. So it's basically a blackberry mixed with a blueberry. It's quite delicious.
That sounds
Yeah.
brilliant. I
Yeah,
like that.
Tillamook, which is a brand from up there, they have a marionberry pie flavored ice cream. It's got chunks of pie crust in it. Oh, it's good.
Interesting. I'm going to have to insist that Matt stop using his computer mouse because it's very audible on the mic.
Is it?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's my cat using the cat box too. She's kicking all the dirt up.
Okay.
Sounded a lot like a mouse on a wooden desk.
Yeah? No?
Okay.
Is it still doing it right now?
Yeah.
Okay, that is me. Because it got quiet.
Yes. I don't know if you eat oil the bottom of your mouse or whatever. I don't know what's going on, but
Or do what sensible people do and get a mouse pad.
I have a mouse pad, but it's plastic.
I don't have a mouse pad. I just have a mic that doesn't pick up from that angle, and
Well, aren't you special?
fine. Yeah, magic, beautiful. Now I got a Christmas tree this week because when I've been live streaming recently, there's been a goal. Should the goal be hit, I had to get a Christmas tree and put it up in the background. It's not went up yet. I'll do that on stream at some point in the next week. But I also had to get custom stockings for the cats with their names on them for the background. So those arrived yesterday or the day before.
God.
They're pretty adorable. Cats don't know what's hit them. Christmas is about to descend
we
upon
get
them.
stockings for our dogs too, and they don't give two craps.
Of course
They're
they
just
don't.
like, oh, we get treats today? Sweet.
Yeah, what I should put inside the stockings is just cardboard. If I can get like a box in there, because the cats love the boxes.
Yeah. Catnip.
Cat toys they don't give a shit about, but you put an empty box in front of them, they are in heaven. It is Christmas come early for them if you put an empty box in front of them.
I mean, it won't become early if
26.
you give it them on Christmas Day like you're supposed to.
Hey, stop. Tear up the
I mean,
carpet. You menace.
The tree came in a box, so they're going to have fun with that box. They've already been sitting on it.
Just keep the box, cut it up, and then give them just that.
Whoa,
Again.
when might I put the tree in after Christmas?
A bag.
Yeah, no, they sell bags for that type of stuff. I don't know where you store said bag. Is as easy as a box. So
Just throw in the loft, should be fine.
Loft is attic for the Americans who don't understand what he just said.
oh,
It's what everyone else does with their Christmas trees.
Yes.
we throw ours in the garage.
Yes, that also
Yeah,
seems like a common
that's
practice.
sensible, yeah.
Or the basement. Basically, one of the things that's kind of part of the house, but not really the main part of the house.
The place where you can just throw the junk and not think about it for a year.
Yes.
It's kind of ideal.
AKA that corner. That's where all the comics the store it is. I left a bunch of my comics because, I put them in my backpack to read at work, and then when I'm done, I take them out, set them on the counter, and my wife goes, "Hey, what's up with all these unread comics?" I go, "What are you talking about? Those are all been read." She goes, "Well, why didn't you take them upstairs?" I'm like, "Have you seen upstairs? It's the tower's unstable. If I add any more..."
I love the idea that Matt's like, okay, I'm going to finally, organize these comics, bag them and board them, do all these things. He goes over at the pills like, okay, it's not been that long, and the first one he picks up is like Flash 682 or something, something like that. I like
Yep.
There's never been a 682. I don't know why I picked 682. 242, right? It's pre Flashpoint. The joke I'm making is that the comics are really old.
Yeah. I hate every like 4 or 5 months I go, shit, there's too many here now. I got a bag and board, and it takes me like a whole day of sitting there doing it to get them sorted, and it's always a bitch.
My shop sells them bagged and boarded, so I just throw them in a stack.
Mine does for variants. For everything else, it's just bags, not boards. Paige always goes to me, "Why don't you just do it after you read them?" And I'm like, "Because I can't be asked doing that every week."
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll only be a few if you did that after you read them.
It would, but then I've got to get, all right, I'll get the boards out, get the tape out, and sit there and do, a handful every week. And I could do that, but I can't be bothered every week. So I just let them, and I think I'll do that this time. I'll keep on top of it. And then 3 weeks later, I don't. They're there.
Yep.
There's a huge pile behind me right now that you can't see.
Hence why there's a stack over there that's probably 4 feet tall.
Yeah, mine's not quite that bad.
Yeah.
I have 3 piles on the bottom shelf of a bookshelf that's empty because it's not been done in a while. I'm saying I'm getting close to being due to doing it really, and can't be bothered.
I don't know how Carl's spending his Christmas Day.
You say that like we're not recording all of Christmas Day anyway.
Are we? We got recordings planned for Christmas Day?
I'm pretty sure we do. Like, I will be cooking the Christmas dinner and then watching the stuff that we have to do.
Yeah, it's only 1 or 2. It's not an obscene amount. It's not like we've got Christmas Day decked out with like, oh, it's Christmas Day, let's record 5 things.
No, we have got like 2 shows to do, and then like I said, I'll cook the Christmas dinner and then have to watch those.
Yeah, but one of them's actually Expanse may be done by then. It'll be Witcher and Lost in Space, won't it?
Witcher and Lost in Space. Well,
Hey, Witcher,
should all go according to plan.
Yeah, Witcher may be really good though. Maybe we'll be excited to watch it.
Wait, Pete's saying this about a fantasy show? What the heck?
Well, you see, Matt, I've played the video games, and Witcher 3 is a fantastic game, so I'm already kind of locked in a little bit, especially since they're promising that the horror element's going to be more played up, and that'll...
Is that what this show is based on, is Witcher 3?
No, it's based on the books that are set before the games,
Okay.
but the games
Gotcha.
are sequels to the books, so I have some context of what's going on.
Yeah,
My
I kinda
friends
hate
really
that
upset.
They do that though. Like they keep saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's not fantasy, it's horror." And they did the whole thing with Game of Thrones as well, where they went, "Oh, we're not really doing we got rid of all the fantasy elements." I'm like,
Because they're rightfully ashamed of
no,
fantasy.
No, it's fine. It's a fantasy book. Do fantasy. That's okay.
Oh, McConnor here.
To be fair, I never actually saw the Witcher people say it's not fantasy. I just saw them say it's going to be more horror than fantasy. I think that's a different statement.
No. I did see them say, "Oh, we toned down the fantasy."
Great, excellent. I love it.
All I know is my friend who loves Henry Cavill is very upset that he has long white hair.
Yeah.
I bet after a couple of days I'll love it. I'll watch a few episodes, but you know what?
Yeah.
It's starting to grow on me.
Oh, she's going to watch the entire show. She binges things.
I mean, she'll be
I-
topless like half the show. She'll be
Yeah,
fine.
and then she'll shut up. She'll be fine. Yeah. So so we watched Mission Impossible Fallout, but she's gone back and just watched the Henry Cavill scenes. I'm pretty sure. So
As you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was great in that movie.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
Has Matt went
So it's
back and
pretty
watched just the Henry Cavill scenes? Because that's what it's sounding like.
I think that's what Matt did with Justice League.
Yeah. You got to picture him with the mustache, and it makes it that much sweeter. However, I did love how he said if it's up to him, which it's not, he's not done playing Superman.
It's funny actually. I was on the internet the other day and I saw there was like a rogue like fan edit of Game of Thrones going about called the Sansa cut. It's just all the Sansa scenes, and I was wondering, I didn't know Matt could edit.
I'm very good at it.
That's made a super cut. It's about 10 hours long. It's just all the Sansa scenes from all 8 seasons.
That's actually longer than I would have expected. I thought like this was going to be one of those things where the whole point was look how little she's in it. And no, that's actually a reasonable length.
Well, no, because you know how people hindsight 2020, and you get to the end and people think like, oh, this is unjustified, and you go back and look at her story. She actually has the most complete story. Her and John.
Hold on a second. I made all this up. That number was out my ass. So that...
But no, she's on the show more than people think.
I was just estimating based on no knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, but it's perfectly acceptable. I mean, I think me and Connor edge on the more reasonable side of Game of Thrones fans here.
I would like to think so.
Yeah, we are fine with the finale, right? Like
I don't love it, but I'm not angry.
No, exactly. So, yeah, she probably has the most development, I would feel.
I can't give any opinions on the Game of Thrones finale, but I will put my hat in the ring as actually liking the Lost finale if anyone wants to have a controversial finale opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what it is. Although Fringe's finale was better. Fringe is one of the most satisfying conclusions to a show ever. And I've been thinking about these a lot recently because we're getting to the end of the year, but more importantly, the end of the decade. And there's a lot of end of decade lists coming up, and one of them is top 25 TV shows of the decade. And I've been putting a lot of thought into my favourite shows.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
It's very tough, especially mixing the comedy with the dramas. See, like taking like Parks and Rec or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, saying, okay, how does this compare to like Better Call Saul? Like it's so hard.
It is, and then it's tough to think of. Okay, well, this show had 5 seasons, but 2 of them were in the previous decade. So should you only really count those last 3 seasons as just what's in them on them alone, or do you go, well, the show as a whole still mostly falls into this decade?
I would go whole show, and then I would alternate, drama comedy, So it's not as equal.
I can tell you right now, not to spoil my list there, but I can tell you right now, there's not an equal amount of comedy and drama, so I couldn't alternate evenly.
No, well, I'm just saying, if you love, Better Call Saul as much as Parks and Rec, but for different reasons, you could put them 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like both would be justified.
50 shows at the minute. I need to get it down to 25.
I have 0 because I don't participate in this madness.
Yeah, screw you. I don't have a choice. I will be surprised if I have more than 5 comedies in it at the end out of that 25.
Although Matt's definitely going to do a top 50 movies of the decade, aren't you, Matt?
No.
Go on, you can do one.
Maybe.
That won't take. But over the course of this episode, Matt will be pressured into saying yes.
Yeah, maybe. Because I had an idea, because me and Connor were definitely going to do it as a pair, but I was actually thinking that I could get everyone to do it, not at the same time in the same recordings, but do like a, either an edit
definitely send in the list.
No. I'd have you on video saying your picks, Matt, one at a time, and
sounds like work.
Give it a little why. Yes, there would be a little bit of work involved. It would be a special where you'd give your top 50.
You really want me to have 50 reasons why Kong Skull Island's #1, Pete?
I mean, it would be banter if nothing else, Matt. I mean, I'm already worried about Tim's placement of the boy. That I don't, I don't know what to do.
God, he loves that movie.
He really does. This madness.
Like I thought it was a joke. It's not a joke. You don't play.
Like I'm pretty sure on what my top 3 would be. After that, God knows.
Do you know, I just to bring up one of Tim's tweets from the week, because I do this every couple of weeks. So The Irishman came out on Netflix. The Scorsese movie came out on Thursday.
23 minutes of it.
Like it was. Yeah, it's like 3 hours long. Yeah,
I'm not watching that.
So Tim puts out a tweet saying, "This is the only Irishman I care about." Would anyone like to guess what the gift was?
Was it the leprechaun?
It was the leprechaun, yes, on a tricycle.
Classic Tim. I mean, we should mention while we're on the topic of Tim, his comic hit Comixology this week.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Goatman and the Midnight Delivery, issue 1. You can find it on Comixology now for your $3.99. And you can support him, and you can give him a nice 5-star rating if you do happen to buy it. And
I did a nice drunken review for him.
So it's ineligible, is what you're saying?
Hey, no, look, I went so far as to tag like Tom King has Batman, Tom Taylor did Deceased, but Tim, because I was like, well, Tim's close enough to Tom when you're drunk, has Goatman. So
Yes. Also, I saw this tweet. It was very drunken, and there were typos all over the place. It was kind of hard to decipher, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that is true. This was a thing that happened. So it's a 2-issue story. Hopefully, issue 2 ends up there soon as well. Hopefully, he submitted that so that they can get the complete story. But issue 1 of Goatman, the Midnight Delivery from our fellow mailed fuzzer Tim is there, if you want to go have a look at that. So without further ado, we will move on to the books. And coming up first this week, we have Action Comics 1017, Brian Michael Bendis writing, and unfortunately, John Romita Jr. on art.
Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. John Romita's art's not, or JR's art's not terrible. However, it makes it feel like it's from a different era, and an era that I don't like. It reminds me of Rebirth Superman. Not Rebirth Superman. Flashpoint Superman. New 52.
New 52. That's what you were trying to say.
Yeah. And I don't like it. Like, so why it's not like the art in this wasn't as, I would say, I don't want to say boring, but it wasn't as bad as the Batman stuff, right?
I don't like his face. He's every time Superman's flying somewhere or something, his face looks terrible. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not for me. Anyway, here's a complaint, and I could have made this complaint in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, and I didn't. But I'm going to make it this week because I hate these covers right now that have got the Year of the Villain logo, because the title of the book itself is in small print under the DC logo, and I can't imagine walking out of the comic book store unless you're keeping up on what the covers look like. You're like, okay, where's Action Comics? Oh, I'll read the small print.
Yep. I had when I got mine for my pull list, I overlooked, and I was like, you didn't give me Action. He goes, yeah, I did. It's right there. Mm-hmm. Just because when I thumb through and look, I'm looking for familiar stuff. But this book,
I'll tell you,
opening,
this cover's not winning cover of the week. I'll tell you that right now. I'm just Celestial looks like an elf or something. I don't know. Anyway.
I hate his Grodd. And I don't like the look of his gorillas later.
Oh yeah, his Grodd looks like he's had his hair combed. He's got all his hair combed. It's all perfectly uniform.
But no, so I feel like they just tacked on the Year of the Villain stuff in here at the front and the back. Mm-hmm. Like it's got these really bad bookends, because the middle is what we've been dealing with Miss Good and the Invisible Mob, or Invisible Mafia, and her coming out of the shadows as the owner of the planet now.
I think you're mixing the names.
All
up.
That stuff was good.
You're mixing up names, I think. You mean Leon?
Yeah. Good's the Red Mist, right?
Red Mist, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, and I like all that. And Bendis' Perry's still good. And his, the interpersonal stuff's all there. And it was good seeing, what is it, Melanie? Not the firefighter?
Yeah, Melody.
Moore? Yeah.
Melody Moore.
It was good to see her again, because that was the last time I was wondering where she's been.
It'd been a while. It's been a while since we had the fire department showing up for something, yeah.
Yeah. So all of that stuff's good, but you have the JRJR art, which makes it kind of hard to read, because the way that he does his breakdowns, and there's so many lines. I know maybe it's just me, that it was hard to stay focused on what the actual story was. And then you get that bookend that's going on with what's going on with the Doom War stuff, and it doesn't feel connected to anything.
Yeah,
this is the first time I've really felt editorial interfering into Bendis' books.
The opening for me, like one of my big things, I always say that I always completely forget what happens in books until I start reading the next one, and it's usually the first couple of pages that go, oh yeah, it all clicks back in my memory what the last issue was. But because this opens with this weird thing in the future where like Batman's in a mech suit and Wonder Woman's there and they're getting their asses kicked by the Legion of Doom, I was like, wait, how did the last issue end? I was like confused. I was like, what happened last issue? I don't remember any of this crap. Yeah. And then it cuts back 3 days earlier, and we were going back to kind of where we were. I'm like, okay, so I haven't missed anything. It was just doing a weird future thing. Yeah, I feel like the whole Year of the Villain thing is infected this in a way that I hate when tie-ins do, where it feels like it's kind of... And it does it in this way, and it's not just this book. There's multiple books this week and this month that feel like they're trying to establish that all these storylines and all the individual books are happening at the exact same time as Justice League, which makes no sense whatsoever. Like,
none.
I think we always have to...
A counter to that, there is something in Flash, we'll get to that later, that kind of maybe says... these things aren't all happening at once, weirdly.
Yeah, but with Flash, we'll get to there.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we get there.
There's a theory I have with that.
Because normally we have to headcanon a little bit. So, okay, we got all these books at the same time, but we want a Batman, a detective alongside a Justice League that has Batman in it. So we just kind of accept that, okay, this arc probably happens before that arc in the other book, and it's just kind of, you just shift them all into place. This event, all these tie-ins are going out of their way to make it impossible to try and explain any of it. By having everything happen with a symbol in the sky, and like Superman in this book is talking to Lois about dealing with both Leviathan and the Invisible Mafia and how they're facing off against each other. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really understand the ending, if I'm honest. See when they both look at each other and go, okay, what does the Invisible Mafia and Leviathan both want from Metropolis? And then they both at the same time go, Luthor, as if it's a eureka moment. And I have to be honest, I kind of went, okay, what do you mean?
Yeah,
expand on that.
I did the same thing, because Leviathan had nothing to do with Luthor. She's had nothing to do with Luthor, except for Red Cloud, right? Being upset that whatever he gave her amped her up that took her off the board and forced Leon's hand, or Leon's hand.
I mean,
yeah.
My guess
it
is...
feels like a mess.
My guess is that both want him out the picture. Leviathan, because he's like the next... I mean, he's not a criminal organisation, but he's kind of the next in line in terms of taking out. And then Leon and the Invisible Mafia, who seem to have, burned down their own headquarters after what's happened. Or Leviathan did that. It's like kind of unclear. It's kind of intentionally like we don't know which one is which. It seems like it may be Leviathan because Leviathan tech was used to get Superman out of the way to go and deal with something in Gorilla City, is what happens in the book. But like, so yeah, all I can think of is that both want to get rid of Lex, so they're both sort of coming to Metropolis at the same time.
Right.
How that plays into Lex being, Hero Legion of Doom in 3 days' time, other than just tying into Justice League.
Yeah, and I don't also get the why is Luthor suddenly a problem for Leviathan when they've been so careful about who they take off the board and when,
Because I can't imagine in my head thinking about the story in Justice League, unless there's some sort of weird time jump where all this stuff could have happened. Where in that story in Justice League, there's time for Superman to be doing all this stuff, and then having the Trinity with him to fight the Legion of Doom in the middle of Metropolis. If you think about what's going on in Justice League and how it's built up to this big final fight that's just hitting from last issue, like when did this happen? Like when did any of this happen?
Yeah. Well, and then Leviathan teleports him to Gorilla City, right? Where someone has flipped Gorilla City now that they don't want to play ball.
Yeah, I guess that has to be Doom and like them succumbing to Doom, I guess.
I guess that wasn't very clear.
This sounds like the consistent problem of editorial mandated tie-ins.
And that's the thing is that when Bendis is tied in, right, it's his own stuff, right? Is he tied Superman in with Legion?
Oh yeah, he's
Thorn.
Bendis knows how to weave his 3 or 4 books into a shared, cohesive universe.
The last 2 issues of Action, we've had Naomi pop in there, and it all flowed really well.
Oh yeah,
this is the first time it felt like.
I'm not blaming Bendis for this though. This feels like editorial's like no. This has to be Year of the Villain stuff. So make sure Year of the Villain things are happening.
I don't think any of the writers are at fault. I don't think as much as I don't enjoy Bendis, I wouldn't blame him for this. I haven't blamed any of the individual writers for the tie-ins. I don't blame Snyder or Tynion for setting it up in Justice League because I don't think it was their call to. Hey, let's get everyone to do it. It was clearly editorial went. We're running with this.
However, I will blame Williamson when we get to Flash. Because it seems to be, again, it's all about precedent. And thus far, Bendis has shown that he's adept at weaving in and out of things.
If this is someone's first episode of this show, let me make it clear. Me and Matt have been doing nothing but praising Bendis' action since it started.
This is the most negative they've been, by far.
Yeah. By far.
Well, and again, the story here with Leon and the Daily Planet and Clark and all of this is really good.
Oh, the best part of the book is when they're just sort of verbally sparring and he's trying to interview her. Like that's the best part of the book for sure.
Yeah. So and then you get the fun stuff with Jimmy and Trish Q, and he goes, "I'm Jimmy Olsen." She's like, "Yeah, you've introduced yourself to me like 47 times." So there's all that fun banter stuff, and that's good. The beginning and end and the Leviathan stuff not making sense with the Doom. And it just reeks of editorial.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're going to put JRJR on an Action Comics issue or 2, it may as well be this one. Because
and again,
it's already a mess.
I don't want to... JRJR's art's not for me. However, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Maybe because I went in with such low expectations. It's not great, but it wasn't terrible.
I mean, the one thing I'll compliment with JRJR is I think his layouts for action are really good. How his action flows from panel to panel has always been quite good. Yeah. It's just his actual art of people and faces that I hate.
Yeah.
He was okay on Silencer because that was so much action.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that.
And she wore a mask a lot of the time. So.
Yeah, so it wasn't a face. It was like
that helped. I won't lie.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so Action Comics 1017 is kind of a rough issue. I have complete faith that after another issue or two it'll be back to normal. Because we don't even get to this conflict yet, that's 3 days in the future by the end of the issue, it means that there's going to be at least one more issue of this. So it means I'm not really looking forward to the next one, but hopefully by the time we get to 119 or 120, we're back to normal. And...
You can look forward to it next year.
yes. Well, okay, yeah. No, but even the next issue might actually be next year. I can't remember if that's one that's getting put forward a week or not coming out to the first week of January.
That's a good point.
So it may be next year, the next issue.
Yeah, you're right.
So your joke is invalid.
God damn it. Bloody December.
Yeah. I'm good, Matt. What we give it?
I'm gonna give this a 6. That's only because of Great High.
That's basically me going, this is more like a 4, but I'm gonna give it a 6 just to stay on brand.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a straight 5. There's parts of the Bendis story in there in the middle that I like, but the art I hate, the bookend I hate, and some of the clashing story stuff from the other things is just kind of getting really, really murky. So hopefully we don't spend too much time on this plot line and we can, get back to normal.
And I also feel like he had to make a deal that in order to not do the Year of the Villain stuff in Superman, he had to do this in Action instead. Because remember, there was that whole delay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe that's the benefit. This is that Superman will remain unscathed for a little bit.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay, well, that'll take us out of the Flash then. Issue 83, Joshua Williamson, writing with Rafa Sandoval on art.
2 positive books to start the show.
I know, right?
All right.
It's so weird not having Wonder Woman. We've had Wonder Woman consistently, more or less. Well, that's not true. We dropped it during Robinson's run for a while, but...
Yeah. So... This is definitely a mirror world, right? They're definitely not in actual Central City.
Either that or it's literally just Central City's in a mirror dome or something. Yeah.
That was the point where they went, "Oh yeah, time and reality are just broken." I went, "All right, fine, whatever."
So, if this wasn't so close to what I feel is the end, I would probably quit this book. Because it's not being fun to read.
I think, do you know what is the key difference between this and I'm going to compare it to King's Batman is, there was a point maybe 10 issues or so ago where I went, I kind of want to quit, but I know I'm close to the end because it'd always been 100 and then it was like, okay, 85 actually on this title. Right. So I thought I'll stick it out. With this, we don't actually know. There's no hard it's 100 issues like we've known with Batman for a long time. So you say, it feels like we're close to the end, but God knows if it actually is. This could go to 150 for all we know.
I don't think it will. I think it will probably be about 100. I think when we get to middle of next year, we're going to start to hear about when it's wrapping up.
You mean something on that 5G sort of line for 2021?
I feel I feel like Williamson's run will probably end just before that happens. That'd be my guess at this point.
I'm gonna give it one more issue because I didn't like anything in this issue.
Oh, you're actually considering dropping it now?
Yeah. It's not fun to read, and I like Williamson a lot. Flash is one of my favorite heroes. I want to be excited for that book. I'll still hate read Batman, but I refuse to hate read Superman or Flash.
It's been a long time since Matt's been like, I don't want to read Flash to that extent because Matt loves Flash. And,
it was called Venditti. That was the last time.
Well, it was. But just here, Cold's still not. I don't like his characterization. There's a little bit of a shine through of him in the beginning where he talked about he never wanted to be a king, but now it suits him. And it's
but now it's great.
Yeah, and I'm almost like, dude. This is a villain. Why I like Colt so much? He's a villain with values, and that's kind of rare. And now he's just like every other villain, and and then the stuff with Golden Glider. I still don't know what her powers are. She used to just be able to move fast, right? A little bit.
Glide, you might say. She could glide.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but now she's definitely phasing through walls
and stuff, which.
got Ragman-esque rag colors.
I don't know.
And like, I'm just tired of the Speed Force being a plot device. Because this is now, what? Since the end of Flash War. So, what was that, issue 50?
Give or take.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, now we're what, 23 issues on
33.
this being used as a... Huh?
33.
33. Jeez. I'm terrible at math. It's even worse than I thought.
I had to explain why 33 take away 9 was 24 to my supervisor earlier this week. It was a 15-minute argument as why it was 24 and not 22, even after a calculator showed us the answer.
Oh, wow. Oh, jeez.
So don't feel too bad, Matt.
Yeah, it's 33, or as the Irish would say, dirty tree.
Yeah, dirty tree. That's how Finn Balor says it.
Yeah, dirty tree. That's what you're saying for 33 in Irish.
But yeah, I'm tired of that. The whole thing with Flash not being able to remove the collar.
Yeah, he's got a meta dampener collar on his neck, and Lighter breaks him out of the ice heights. It's called the ice heights now, and they get into the city. There's like big ice
wolves.
No, before we get there, there's the guard robot
ice
things.
Mechs.
Oh yeah.
So which I like, because you see how he creates them by using the Mirror Master's tech. You know, he's
the wolves.
It feels like just though that we want some ice wolves. Let's do ice wolves.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's fine. I get that. I understand all that concept there, and it gives, you know, him saying that his sister was always afraid of dogs, shouldn't have sent wolves after him. I was like, okay, that's proper villain, you know, and whatnot. It
kind of Williamson. I'm realizing, having read so much of his Flash now, he kind of suffers from one of the things that I think Snyder suffers from. And he just throws out all these big ideas without really building to them. And I don't think he reads like Snyder. I think there's definitely a difference in the writing. I think Williamson isn't as wordy and doesn't kind of bog down the details as much. But the core problem I have, where I don't feel like it would build up to some of these big ideas, which honestly, the city being like an ice glass mirror world, and like it being kind of like almost Flash's version of like No Man's Land, but like with you know this kind of stuff. That
could have been okay if it didn't just come out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah, I could have been into that, you know.
And oddly, I feel like Snyder would have suited this concept better in that he's very methodical in explaining these things.
Yep.
Matt, your mic's going. So I feel like I'd have actually enjoyed that more in this concept with Snyder's style of explaining it and going through it. Whereas this just kind of, I don't really understand what's going on still. How much time's passed? What the hell are the rules here?
I'll give it this. I kind of like the sort of the winter variants on the costumes that Avery and Kid Flash have.
That's cool.
As a style.
Yeah, but so their suits aren't tied to the Speed Force?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
No.
So
well, to be fair,
a good job. Otherwise, they wouldn't be wearing them, would they?
Well, to be fair, that's what I'm saying. Only Wally's ever was.
Oh, that's right.
Well, Wally's the only one who can make a suit out of a Speed Force. Everyone else has actual suits that were, you know.
That's right.
Made.
Yeah.
So, oh man.
So that's not a plot hole in this sense.
It's convenient that Wally's not here. Is what Matt's saying.
Wally's running through the street naked.
So that's really why he went to Sanctuary, because he just broke. It has nothing to do with missing his family. He likes the crisp air. Yeah, man, this just makes me sad.
Yeah, so basically what happens is these big ice wolves, or glass ice wolves that Captain Cold has created out of Mirror Master's tech, mixed with Luthor's tech, is it sends them after Flash, and the only option they have is to maybe remove the collar that might have a detonation, which it does. It explodes, and Barry has this weird thing where he seems to be phasing in and out of different time periods and possibly even worlds. We see him in like Commandy's time, we see him in like space, we see him in like sort of the future somewhere.
It looks like the future from the evil Tim that we got in Detective.
Yeah.
Looks like that sort of feature. And then Wallace puts the collar back up and says, "No, you have to keep the collar on because the Speed Force is not safe to use. Like it's unstable or something.
Just it's too dangerous."
Yeah. So we end the issue with a big crater. I mean, I'll give it this. It's easy enough to read. It's not like a chore to get through in the way that it's not difficult to follow or anything like that. It's just unsatisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It just feels like it's going from one sequence of events to another with no narrative flow or reason or care.
So that kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'll keep reading it. I'm too far in now at this point to, see if it was like a really wordy book that took me 20 minutes to read every time, I'd probably be a lot more harsh and the thought of dropping it. But as it is, I'm happy enough to just squeeze it in because it's easy enough to read and talk about it, and hopefully
and you've
picks
got
up.
your 750 coming up.
Yeah, which we are going to do. We're going to do the whole big special bonus episode on it because that's his 1,000 and whatnot.
Which if I do stop reading, I'll come back for that.
Because most of it, because we're doing Wonder Woman, none of us are reading that because Wonder Woman 750 is going to be mostly, Greg Rucka and whoever else.
Usually when I drop stuff, it's because I don't have time. This is not even a time thing. This is just I'm not enjoying it, and it makes me sad, and I don't like to feel sad.
It's a nice bonus though, right? One book less on a week.
Well, that is a bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I always say that, and I never.
He always caves and just gets the next issue anyway.
Yeah. He probably will.
Which I did with Lobdell Superman until I couldn't take it anymore. Which lasted 3 issues until Johns came on with JRJR, and then Venditti Flash, which I stopped reading until Rebirth. And that felt nice to have Flashback, and now
here we are all over again.
Do I have to admit, I'm actually kind of looking to this 5th generation thing, not because I necessarily want characters to reboot or change or anything like that, but just because I feel like we are due for that big line-wide kind of here's the new initiative.
It's one of those things where I don't need it to be as severe as what it sounds like it's going to be with changing everyone who's in the cowls and such. But line-wide, shot in the arm, here's the new teams on all the books. Everyone's had their fair share of their runs. If there's anyone who started relatively recently, sure, they can carry on. For example, Tynion on Batman, he'll have had a year tops.
Mm-hmm.
If he wants to carry on with the next phase of Batman and just carry on that run, fair enough. Tynion will have had 3 to 4. Williamson will have had 3 to 4 years on Flash by that point. So I'm sure. If someone else wants to go, it's about time that they can have a turn.
I don't know. It's good for them. It renews interest. Hell, it's good for the podcast. It renews interest in the podcast because all of a sudden there's all these people who are kind of drawn in again because there's a new big thing happening. Yeah. So, but hey, Flash is in a really mediocre place right now, and I think, Matt, what do you give it?
I'm gonna give this a 6. No. I'm giving this a 4.5. I'm angry.
Connor?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4. I think on top of all the story problems that we've talked about, Sandoval's art still doesn't suit Barry. Even when he's not using his speed powers, like that first page of Barry chained up just looks kind of rough. I just really hate how he draws Barry.
I'll give it a 5. I'm 2 books in and I've given 2 5s. I'm not happy.
Good week, folks.
Excellent week. That'll take us on to Shazam! Issue 8. Geoff Johns writing with Scott Kolins on the art, so we've got a bit of a Flash.
Wait. Only one artist?
Yes.
I'm shocked.
I thought he was correcting me there. I was like, I think so.
No, I didn't read it, remember. But just shocked that we're back to one artist on the book.
Yeah, it's a notably different artist from all the other ones that we had before.
Yeah.
So, just real quick,
do
you guys like where this is heading?
He didn't read it.
I didn't read the last one. The delays just kind of was too much.
Pete, do you like where this is going? Because I don't.
Well, in the context of the idea that there's a 7th champion, because obviously right now we have 6.
Yes. I like that.
Right. and there's a possible 7th champion. Right now, the end of this issue kind of teases that the 7th one could be Billy's father, because we see him in like a yellow, it's almost a reverse colour, it's a yellow and red outfit at the end. Should
He's been thinking of that all week.
I don't think he's the real 7th. I think this is a fake
okay.
out. I think we're getting an actual 7th at some point.
All right, you're making me feel better, because if this is where it's going,
actually,
and it's that trite.
Hey, Matt. They do bring the tiger back with them, the talking tiger. He could be the 7th.
If it's Talkie Tawny, great. I don't like the idea that Billy's dad can go, right, and show up, and then suddenly Billy wants to share the power with him, because we've learned that he has to want to share the power. It's not something that he can just give away.
Yeah,
it doesn't work that way.
But the impression I get from this issue, though, is that he's not consciously made that choice. It's just that his mind is muddled because this family member's back in his life, and it sort of happens subconsciously that his dad, gets connected to the power when some of the kids get disconnected.
However, this issue made me think of the movie so much, because I feel it shares a lot of the beats with the climax of the movie.
Sure.
With Black Adam and Savannah there and whatnot. But yeah, we get to the end. So throughout, it's Billy going across the different lands, and
just the one, really. I mean,
well, yeah, but he's collecting the and we see.
It sounded like it sounded like Hot Fuzz then.
What?
And you were just the one, really.
But we see that the wizard explains to Eugene and Pedro and with the White Rabbit there.
Yeah, so they're in the Wazenderlands, right?
Right.
So they're in there. He's explaining that something's up with the powers, and Billy's heart's divided. Mary's back with the foster parents in the real world on Earth. Darla and Freddy are in the Darklands, which is where Billy also is. So Billy finds them after having a bit of a conversation with this deceased Captain Marvel, who tries to trick him into helping him.
Which they also, the White Rabbit calls that. I think it's the White Rabbit or the Wizard calls the Darklands like the tricksters.
Yeah.
Right. So right there, you have something to think about, and but yeah, and he's all I could think of was Dead Man, as
sure.
Just the tone and whatnot there. But so we find out that each of the, when you split the powers, is meant to sit on the throne to each of these lands. And so it was a really cool spread of each one of the family members. So you have like Darla with the animals, right? Which makes sense because in her characters. I remember you had, I got to pull it up now. And you got
Freddy in the Funlands, by the looks of it.
Right.
You got Mary in the
Wazender.
Yeah, you got Billy's in the real world.
Eugene in the game.
Eugene in the games. Pedro's in the Darklands.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the 7th, we don't know.
That'll be the one that was crossed off. Remember there was one in the station that was like,
right,
you can't go in there.
Destroyed.
That'll be that one.
Right, which I thought was the the monsters, right? So,
well, I mean, because that's the thing. So we have Savannah and Black Adam, and Savannah's trying to convince Black Adam to work with him and Mr. Mind to get his secret society of monsters, out of whatever. And Black Adam's kind of reluctantly going along with it. He's not really happy. He tries to fight them. But they give him the 7 deadly sins, the sort of the monsters that we've had before in the book. Well, I say the book. There was the Rebirth, the New 52.
Yeah.
But that was the first part of the story, right? This is a sequel to that.
No, it was, and then one way to the movie. That's why I said it reminds me so much of what happens in the climax there.
So, but at the end of the book, Savannah and Mr. Mind do have a moment with each other. We're like, oh, he doesn't. We haven't told him the real plan and what we're actually going to do to him, because they promise they can bring like his son and wife back, and they promise him all sorts of things.
Yeah, and he talks about Isis and Osiris, and I was like, oh man, that's New 50 or 52. That's 52.
52, yeah, not the new 52, just the 52.
Right.
And you got Darla and Freddy are with the tiger, and Billy finds them, brings them back home. So a lot of them are back home, and basically Billy has to go and save his dad because Black Adam's going to fight him with the 7 deadly sins. So we get a bit of an action scene. And I'm a fan of Scott Kolins' art. It's not quite the style that this book was before, though.
No.
But I do like, his work on Flash and his work with Johns before.
Yeah, he works with Johns really well. So you can tell that Johns just trusts him because it's gonna end up being okay. The Darkland stuff looked really good under Kolins.
Oh, it did, yeah, because it's all black and white in the background. Just Shazam's in color, yeah. Right,
it reminded me of Hammer horror stuff and Tim Burton and
Schindler's List.
Yeah, well, not that far, Pete. But you're all right. There's black and white and red.
No, I bring that up.
Which we learned on Watchmen.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been on my mind because a couple episodes ago in Watchmen, they revealed it in this Watchmen universe. Because of what happened in New York in the Watchmen story, Steven Spielberg never made Schindler's List. He made a movie about the giant squid, and it was named after the band that was played in Madison Square Garden that night. But she describes a scene, and she talks about this little girl in a red coat, but it's all in black and white, but you can see the red coat, and I'm like, oh, this is Schindler's List, but instead of Schindler's List.
Yep, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, so all that stuff looked really good. The Ash and the 7 Deadly Sins, their personifications look properly creepy under Kolins. So while I wouldn't have picked him for the art, he works with John so well, it's hard to find fault in it outside of stylistic, concerns.
Kolins is a relatively quick artist.
Yeah, that too.
He can hit the deadlines. We've seen that over many years.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping that Shaddad isn't. Give me a second. Isn't the end game, because if it is, I'm going to be kind of disappointed.
I don't think it is. I think we're telling the story. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's part 8 of whatever this arc is. I would assume this is a 12-issue story overall, but
yeah.
I don't think this is the end game. I think whatever lesson Billy's going to learn and sort of make his choice by the end.
Yeah.
I don't think this is it. I think
that's been my favorite occurrence of Shazam under Johns is the ability to share the power like that. Like that was always there. Like that's how Mary got her powers and Freddy, but the fact that he can whittle it down, I just felt like it would be something bigger, and I just hope he's not going with his dad just because his dad's here. Again, because you don't know this guy. He'd be a bad guy. We don't know.
No, I wouldn't worry about it, Matt. I don't. This is not the end game of this story. Okay. This is not the end of the story. So,
I really hope the listeners are paying attention to that clip, just in case.
Why?
Just in case in a few months that is the end game, so we can just play that back for him.
This won't be the end game. The end game is not Billy's dad's going to be the 7th along with him. And the only way I could see that happening is if the 7th does get trapped in this other verse and it never can be seen again. So he's kind of an unseen 7th. In which case it'd be fine because it doesn't really matter. It's a sacrificial role.
Dad, I've never got to see you, and you never will get to see me. Goodbye, Billy. And then we never talk about it again.
Yeah, if it's like a negative thing where whoever takes the 7th role has to kind of like be abandoned to this realm, then it's fine.
I definitely feel that I've read enough Johns to know that the land itself isn't bad. It's been mischaracterized by Mr. Mind, and that once it's reopened, then we'll have But I almost feel like it's gonna be Adam, because he's always been a frenemy to Billy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
So, I don't know.
I wouldn't worry about it. I think you're worrying too much, Matt.
Yeah.
What are you giving the issue?
I'm going to give this 7.5.
Yeah, I'll agree with the 7.5. Yeah. It's good. Maybe it doesn't quite scratch the great itch, but it's good. Much better than the last two things I read. So there you go. That's Shazam. So that'll take us on then to Justice League Dark, issue 17. James Tynion IV, writing with Javier Fernandez on the art. Take it away.
So, Connor, do you get a chance to read this, or is it just me?
No, I've read it. I'm good.
Good. So we get the origin of Circe here, which, I'm always a fan of Greek mythology.
Yeah, it starts it starts interestingly because you see what is Cersei kind of on the like the marbled steps under one of those Greek style pillars, and and the narration's talking about under the light of the moon, she was the daughter of the sun is I think what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this obvious parallel with Diana in that Zeus being a sky god and such. So it kind of plays that up really heavily at first. It actually doesn't, even though it's Cersei, it doesn't actually tell you until a few pages in.
No, but I could kind of, knowing what I know from the Odyssey and her exile, right? So basically, she's this beautiful woman. They partner up with a powerful prince, but turns out that he was a bit of a scumbag, and so she killed him because he was a brute and a drunk and a liar.
And then
she called him an animal.
And then she gets exiled, or she runs, depending on which version of the story.
So she runs and she takes a ship and she sails until she can't sail anymore, where an island appears and Hecate's there, and she makes basically this Faustian bargain with Hecate that she'll take the witch mark in addition, in trade for power.
She'll bear 1/5 of Hecate's soul, which is an interesting number given that Hecate's usually in threes. So it's interesting there's a fifth and not a sixth. Right.
So she takes it, and then we see the whole her turning people or men into animals, like in the Odyssey.
And the horror of it is really played up here. It looks fantastic. Like they're still in these robes, and they're contorting and twisting into like goats and cows and stuff.
Sheeps, and then it cuts to Diana, who we know is Cersei's inhabiting her body, because of the the whole Black Diamond. And we get a fun moment with her, Zatanna, and Fate about is it safe to touch the diamond, so she pockets it, and then Eclipso starts talking to her, and she goes, "Hello there, little one." And I not that I forgot, but I had spaced that this wasn't Diana from the last issue.
And
I was
that's weird.
Yeah, that's really weird. And then he automatically realizes what's going on, right?
Yeah, he kind of chuckles.
Right. So then we up to the rest of them where they've sedated Manbat, and Bobo is basically like, where have you guys been? We needed you. What took so long? And I like Khalid's also like, I never want to see anything with that many mouths again. Like it left him scarred. But Constantine knows what's up, and basically is like he seemed possessed. Like that wasn't our guy.
He's like, you can see the spell in the eyes. There's something there, and we're gonna have to sort this out.
Yeah, and then Detective Shimp shows them what's left of Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and he goes over to Diana specifically. It's like, hey, we should probably let the rest of the league know about this situation, because this war that we thought we were preparing for, we're kind of already fighting it. And Swamp Thing's dead, and she just replies with, "Well, shame to lose such a powerful ally. Yeah, maybe try Jason Blood." Right,
and then he's like, "Yeah, good thinking. I'll get right on it." And then he pulls everyone else aside. He's like, "Look, that ain't her. Whatever happened down there, y'all came back with someone that's not Diana."
It's Zatanna is done to it, and she's like, "All right, okay, you put a spell on her right now, make it so she can't move, so she can't do anything. We need to get ahead of this."
And she tries, and that's where Cersei reveals herself. It looks properly scary. You see the red, like the flame coming up out of her hair.
It looks so good, and and she uses the backwards magic against Zatanna and removes her mouth, so she can't speak,
which gets an hell out of Bobo, which I thought was good.
Bobo charges, and he just gets turned into a regular chimp.
Right. But it's looking bad, and so Fate tries, and she brings in her Injustice League Dark.
Yep.
And they kind of mop the floor with him, except for Constantine at Midnight, where he goes, "You look like shit, John." He's like, "Well, you've always looked like shit, Midnight." Which I understand the appeal of Constantine, right? Because of moments like that. But as great as that moment is, it doesn't compare to the next where,
Oh my
Zatanna
God.
cuts herself a new mouth.
I was because I had, for whatever reason, skipped over this book this week, so I was reading it
Yep.
while these two were doing their wrestling talk. So if there are any patrons who watch that, you can see me react to this moment as they're talking, because she just grabs a knife and cuts open a hole in her face so that her mouth's there again.
Yep.
And it's visceral and gory. It's fantastic.
Yep. And basically they have to retreat. What we go through?
Yeah,
they're gonna burn them out.
Yeah, they're running away, and the Cersei and her league are chasing them through their base. We see a little bit then of Diana inside the moon world. I can't remember the actual name for it.
The collective unconscious.
That was it.
And Witchfire.
Yeah, she's like, oh, there must be a way to get back, and it's like, well, Witchfire's like, yeah, well, can't get any worse.
Nope.
And then who should show up?
The Upside Down Man.
Yeah, it says it can always get worse.
Well, see, now I'm feeling like what we know about what Tynion's doing with the Batman Who Laughs is I feel like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I feel like Upside Down Man who wants revenge on Hecate, right? Because that was his... He's the dark universe version of Hecate, right?
Yeah.
So I just feel like she's gonna have to make a deal with him.
Oh, very much so. And the next time does say a deal with the devil.
Yep.
And I think it's clear where this is going in a very good way and in a very satisfying way of having to compromise her morals like that just to get out of this place.
Right. So, but solid issue. I mean, Zatanna.
I love this issue because obviously all the time we're saying Cersei's walking around with her in Justice League Dark, but it's Diana's body. It's Wonder Woman leading this visually.
Right.
She's got the witch mark and a few other little effects, but it still looks like Wonder Woman.
And I've in all my years reading comics, I've seen people neutralize Zatanna. I've never seen Zatanna fight back this way.
No, I've never seen. I've never seen her take a knife and cut a hole in her face.
So she can talk.
That was new.
Which it made me think of Harry Potter when Snape's trying to teach him how to duel silently. And that's all I thought of is Zatanna, you got to learn to do this stuff without talking. Yeah.
So,
but solid issue. The art by Fernandez is really good.
It's top-notch stuff.
Yeah. Like the way that he plays with the shadows, the how stuff looks properly monstrous in parts.
And it's very much an issue of two halves because you have like the 8 or so page opening sequence, which is the origin story, and I love the colors in that are all muted until like they're all these kind of dull greens and blues, very soft, until you get to Cersei with the powers. And it's all bright red, and it's horror comes out, and the present day is mostly a little bit brighter. It just a little bit, not much, but again, once everything kicks off, it comes alive again.
Yeah, that first section is all about moonlight because that's where Hecate, draws her power from, and whatnot. So the art and the story do a really good job at driving that back.
Yeah, there's a lot of purples in the second half because of the Black Diamond, but it looks great.
Yeah, someone's definitely getting possessed by Eclipse, right?
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely. That. It's just a question of who.
Which might lead to a problem because we've already seen this when they fought Naboo, right? Where they had to become the Lords of Chaos. So.
I think this is a little bit different in that it's making a deal with Eclipso rather than controlling it themselves. And it will just be presumably just the one of them.
Right. So if you had a bet, who's taking it?
I think, Diana's off the table.
Right.
I don't think Zatanna. I think it could be one of the Fates because we've got 2 of them here. We've got Kelly and Kent. So I think we could do one of those.
I feel that it has to be Zatanna because of her father and the stuff that he put into. He's put the stuff into motion.
It could be, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. What you rating it?
I'm giving it 8.5.
Oh.
This is great.
Yeah. I'm gonna go slightly below. I'm gonna give it an 8. But it is really, really good. So far, the best book of the week for me.
Yeah.
The praise. My.
To be fair, it was a great book. Even on a good week, this would be a good book.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take out Batgirl, 41. Cecil Castellucci, writing with Carmine D. Giandomenico on the art. And this continues on. Babs got thrown out into the fire or out the window or whatever it was last issue.
Into the water.
Yeah, and she lands in the water. The terrible trio, or the two of them that are there anyway, because obviously Vulture's got the electric eye, the Borg eye, off somewhere else.
Yeah.
But the two that are there are like, she's no way she could survive that. And even though Oracle's like doing readings and scans and there's like no life signs for X number of meters, she's like, yes, it's not conclusive though. She could still be out there, wisely assuming that maybe she survived.
But basically, she's playing it by the smart rules of we need a body.
Yeah, we need a body. So.
Right.
The issue, there are some Babs looking around. We see her in the water. We see her sort of getting almost drowning, getting picked up. Leslie Tompkins kind of grabs her and sends her to the hospital as a Jane Doe, and so on and so on. And we see her get up at the end, and obviously she goes on the run at the end when Oracle shows up to grab her. Most of the issue though is Oracle with the trio, try to plan for what they're doing next. The city of Burnside, or the suburb of Burnside, whatever it is. Being in chaos, fires everywhere still. Jason's coming back from whatever event that Alejo's in Washington, and he's trying to look for Babs, which actually makes up a lot of the issue. He ends up running into Frankie and actually kind of teams up with Oracle, and I assume he's just kind of going along with it to betray her later on, because they're really playing this he cares about Babs angle, but he really hates Batgirl, which I'm sure is going to come to a delightful head when he finds out that she's one and the same.
It's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah. So that's the gist of the issue. How did you feel about it?
So I like the through line of Babs is that she created Oracle when she felt useless, and it gave her purpose again. And she's gonna be damned if she's gonna let Luthor twist her purpose. And I really like that and what Oracle means to Burnside, right? Because Oracle itself is basically saying, like, round up all the people. I'm going to basically be, I'm going to not lead them, but the people that stay, right? She's going to basically turn them into her people.
Her Borg.
Yeah, basically. And I like that in that because this is a reflection of Babs, right? Is like, that's what she wanted to do in Burnside. That's why she went there to carve up her own area, and now this is that corrupted, and I really think that's a smart way to go about this year of the villain stuff, right? We don't have to see the big doom thing in the sky. Mm-hmm. This just feels like even without the year of the villain, I feel the story could still go off.
Yeah, I feel like the Year of the Villain tie-in is just like, okay, I'll work it in, but honestly, it didn't really affect anything. Like,
no.
I mean, they're saying Oracle had an upgrade from Luthor, but honestly, it didn't need it.
It's honestly one of the best handled tie-ins in that regard. In that you can just forget it's there and nothing is any different.
Yeah, I do kind of love that Oracle turns on all of the... I mean, I don't know what some of the later ones are, factory robots, I guess, but the first ones are all like toys that she's turning on and using via, the internet.
Drones and, and all that type of stuff.
There's like bunnies, there's like light up green bunnies that she's using as foot soldiers. I kind of love it. I think, this is not the most like kind of prominent like superhero story I've ever read, right? I don't think we're going to look back in this story and go, this is a defining moment for Batgirl. But I think there's something to be said for just a really dependable, solid story that is fun to read as it's going.
It's enjoyable if forgettable.
Yeah, like I think there's been nothing about this that's at any point made me go, oh, this is weird. It's not like Flash where I'm like, oh, why is this happening? Why is this happening? It's constantly putting Babs through her paces. We're getting, again, much like Flash, a bit of a No Man's Land-esque kind of vibe to the city right now, and like how dangerous it is, and so it's creating a mood and an atmosphere. And I didn't even mind the fact that I spent so much of this issue away from Babs, because a lot of it is the villains,
and there's great art anchoring that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's some great stuff at the start with the blues of Oracle, the blues and greens of Oracle clashing with the orange of the flames. There's a nice contrast in the colors, which is good.
Yeah. Also, Jason's not long for this world now.
Sure.
I feel like this is a sacrifice.
He'll find out the truth and then go out a hero.
And then die to save her or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, which I mean, for a character that I didn't care about, now that he's had this arc through here.
Yeah, I don't care about him enough that I want to see Babs forgive him and like actually toy with the idea of being a couple. But I care about him enough that I'll care that if he sort of redeems himself a little bit by death.
Yeah. But it'll be a good beat when it happens. It won't feel like out of nowhere. It'll feel earned and not just cheap.
Yeah, honestly, if I have any complaints about the art, it's just that there's that one point when Oracle is with Bard and she's kind of untied him because he's sort of like saying what he can do for her and that it will help her with Batgirl. And they look up on the screen, it's the Vulture's like eye projects this screen, and it's basically like a firefighter holding the Batgirl outfit. My only complaint is that I actually had to look at it again to actually see what they were talking about, because it didn't stick out to me that that's what he was like. It's there if you're looking for it, but it doesn't really stick out as, oh, hey, there's a guy holding the Batgirl outfit. I just saw firefighters.
Yeah, it's that whole the block green with just the black lines. There's nothing distinguishing about it. It feels like it was a choice made. I don't think anyone could draw it much better than that, like in terms of the artist's style.
Oh, sure. No, it was just because he says, it looks like there's no body. I could go look for it. I was like, wait, what? And I looked back at it and went, oh, he's holding the outfit. That's why he's saying that. Yeah. But it didn't click immediately when I first glanced at it. But just because it is just those solid greens and there's no. I had to be bigger in frame, maybe bigger and more, because it's really down at the bottom of it. It's not like.
No, I get that.
It could have focused on it a bit more, but that's a minor thing. It's an absolute minor thing.
Did Leslie have a spare Batgirl costume lying around?
I wonder if she got it from the firefighters.
Feels weird that they just give that over.
I don't know. Maybe she does have a spare one around. I don't know. I don't think Leslie bring her a Batgirl outfit so she can leave the hospital in a Batgirl outfit. It's one of my big problems.
It's not a big problem. It just felt weird given that we'd just seen it on not quite TV, but that they were in possession of this, the authorities, and she's just got it to give back to. I don't know. It just felt a little weird.
Actually, let me go back to the start of this. I want to check something.
Okay.
I want to check something.
Is something interesting?
But I'm just seeing if it's the exact same outfit, because I know she's had a couple of different ones recently.
I think it is. It looks like the kind of grey one that she's been wearing.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, she must have got it from the firefighters then. That's my explanation for it.
Yeah, just seems a little weird, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, the book ends with her. She sneaks out of the hospital, and Oracle's kind of in pursuit. She's on her bike. So okay, I'm going to take back the city. So yeah, and so it's also worth mentioning that Oracle and the terrible trio have Frankie kidnapped now as well. That happens during the issue. They go hunting for her because she's the operator, as she keeps calling her. So
yes.
No, that's a solid film with the issue. I've been enjoying the art. Like I find like I think the arc is like greater as the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this issue on its own isn't anything spectacular, but I think it's a pretty solid next piece of this story.
I think when you read this in trade, it's going to be a nice 6-issue, quick read for for a couple hours. You just sit down and yeah, I think it'll work. So, what are you giving it, Matt?
I'm going to give this one a 8.
Connor,
I'm going with a solid 7.
I'll split the difference and go 7.5. So I had fun time. That will take us on to Freedom Fighters, issue 11, Robert Venditti writing with Eddy Barrows on the art. Matt's flying solo on this one. So
Yep. So we had Hitler III unleashed Cyborg Overman to fight the Freedom Fighters.
What a sentence to start it off. So we have Hitler III unleashing Cyborg Overman.
Because he killed his dad in the last issue, right? And he took over. And so most of the issue is a fight between Uncle Sam and Cyborg Overman, while the other freedom fighters are basically trying to get out. And there's this really fun when they get to the radios, Cachet does, and to basically say that America's back, and it's this, it's all the people of America over like this 2-page spread that ends up looking like the flag. It was a really cool thing, and then you see Uncle Sam basically getting powered up because he's a thought form, he's an idea, and Cyborg and Overman and him fight, and he's basically saying how, you're the real problem because there's no such thing as freedom, and you give people hope when there shouldn't be, and I'm representative of the one true power of control and all of this, and Uncle Sam points out to Cyborg Overman that no, you're just a copy. You're not even the real Overman. And he brings up the Cyborg Overman that no, he is Nazi science, pure because he was, born of it and whatnot. So it's this real nice, battling of ideas between the two. And the other freedom fighters, go and get Human Bomb and Doll Woman. And you see Phantom Woman just take out a whole contingent of plastic men, and I think her power is teleporting. I always forget, but she basically teleports them into goo, and you see one of the freedom fighters, I think it is Cachet, start to hurl, which is a fun, nice little moment. But yeah, it's basically the fight between Overman and Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam laid some haymakers, and Hitler the Third ends up panicking and gets the key to launch a nuke. Because he says, if we can't have this country, then no one can have it. And yeah, and that's where it ends. So Big Issue 12 comes out next, and it's been a real fun ride. I recommend going back. This probably reads so much better in trade. Because when I did get caught up, it's one of those books that once it gets going, it's kind of a breakneck to till the end here. So yeah, a lot of fun. I'm going to give this one a 7.5.
All right, short and sweet.
Yep.
So that'll take us on to the Supergirl annual number 2, which is actually Robert Venditti again, with Laura Braga on the art.
Yeah, so Connor was like, yeah, the only time I didn't read Flash was under Venditti. I used to have a big problem with Venditti. However, since then, since Rebirth, I think he's become one of my consistently favored.
I agree. He's not a top tier writer, but he's become pretty dependable. He's kind of like
Abnett-esque. Yeah.
Yeah. I get
well,
it.
I mean, this book opens with Supergirl playing hockey on Krypton, so I feel like
Matt might be giving this book of the week.
Yeah, I feel like
I can predict his panel.
Yeah, there's going to be some. There's in particular, there's a panel early on where she actually tackles someone. Now, the only difference between this and this and regular ice hockey is that they've got it's like a laser disc thing that they're hitting.
She called it hoverball or something later in the book.
Yeah.
But this is hockey, and so she goes. She's playing. So she's on Argo City. She's playing for what appears to be the national championships against Kryptonopolis.
For her age range, because she's still like 13 or whatever. Yeah.
High school. Yeah. I'm gonna say this is high school level, and she basically goes to make a shot, has a turnover, comes back, open ice, checks the dude out of his pants, and scores the winning goal to put him up 4-3.
I read this, and I have no idea what Matt just said. So
I followed it. Don't worry.
Thanks.
So luckily, Argo's team, which Supergirl's in, is red, blue, and yellow in colors. Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah,
and just
weird,
right? Mighty convenient.
Whereas the other team, the Kryptonopolis team, is in Lex Luthor colors, which is green, purple, and a bit orange. But there's a Zod on the other team, which is Drew Zod's nephew, so it's kind of like akin to her being the niece of Jor-El. There's a nephew of, and it's a love interest. He's this secret boyfriend that she can't tell her parents about because Her parents, you know,
Zods and L's.
yeah, hate the Zods because Zods and L's don't like each other. But this is actually the last day of Krypton. This is, you know, because we keep hearing throughout that our dad Zor-El is going to go with Jor-El to a big meeting later on with the council to present them something. And it sounds like they obviously they're going to say that the planet's dying, but they weren't expected to happen this quickly because it seems a bit more rushed than they were expecting. But so, you know, the issue is largely about young Kara. She has these little moments where she kind of sees something freaky because it is tying into the Secret Six stuff, where all of this is basically what happens in Kara's head the moment she got infected. Is essentially how I read it.
She's basically reliving her last great day.
Yeah.
Right.
On Krypton.
And so she helps win the national, you know, the high school championships. And then she has to go babysit baby Clark.
Yep.
Which she might have to stay overnight, which she's kind of upset with because she had plans. And then she gets Qatar All, which I thought was hilarious. Once you know, you remember Venditti's writing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Kryptonian Hawkman. He basically is, or not basically, he is her teacher and puts her in for a scholarship to deal with the historical sciences, which of course is not okay with Zor-El because she wants to go into applied. He wants her to go into applied scientist like herself or himself.
Yeah, but she's actually quite happy about the babysitting years though, because her parents are going to be gone all night, which means she thinks she can have the boyfriend over for an extended period of time. So, you know, and there's those moments where she looks in the mirror and she sees like the Kiss version of herself with the big black makeup on her face.
Black metal.
Yeah, but
and as she's remembering all this too, like the doom's taking over. So you see, like when she looks at people, they're like kind of rotting, like half their face, you know, like they're deteriorating. Lets you know something weird's happening.
Yeah, it's just it's the idea of the quick flashes are happening as she's going throughout the day that she's not quite where she thinks she is. But you know, it goes on, and eventually. It's happening where she's been sent away. She's been sent away from Krypton by her parents.
Yeah.
They explain that her and Cal will be on Earth, hopefully, Row willing, all that nonsense. And ultimately the book ends with kind of Kara, you know, present day Kara in her head talking to the Batman who laughs as he explains that, hey, you've never been loved here. You've never, like, you know, on Earth, you've always been kind of separate. Now you can kind of be better than him because he kind of says that he never intended for Supergirl to be the one that's infected.
Right.
But hey, like, why should it always be him that's in the limelight? It should be you who gets to take this. So yeah, it's basically just him kind of seducing her. And can I just say again how much I like her outfit, her evil outfit? I actually really like how it looks. The only thing I don't get is why she has elf ears. That part confuses me.
That's art here.
Yeah. That part's weird because I think the art in this is actually quite good. Pretty much. I think Braga's a very good artist and fits.
It reminded me of Maguire a little bit. Like it's got the thick lines.
A little bit, yeah.
It's kind of bubbly. Like
it feels very suitable for teenage Kara. It feels very suitable for that type of setting. It's not quite Joel Jones, but it feels like that you could have easily swapped this artist into being Super, and it would have worked well for that story. So she kind of like when she finally sort of wakes up from like being convinced with the Batman who laughs, she's like standing with the Secret Six in the fortress, and it's kind of like it ties in again to where we were in that Superman and Supergirl issue. So I mean, this issue is completely not irrelevant, but it's completely unnecessary. You don't need to read this, but I think it's a solidly well written story for what it is. If you do want the extra bit of insight.
Yeah, and I got Kara playing hockey.
Yes, you did.
So this is great. I like to imagine that she's a power forward, you know, because that hit that she lays. So it's real cool.
I was actually wrong. There's a few more pages after that, but it's not really anything else. It's just her confronting Superman and saying something.
But basically telling he's like, we need to get you help. She goes, what do you mean get help? This is exactly who I've always been. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So it's I enjoyed it, like you said. It's you don't need to read this. This is basically her one shot, right? Like we've had for the Scarab and King Shazam and
actually, come to think of it, like it feels like like, why isn't this just the infected Supergirl issue 1?
Yeah, because they didn't have to. They had the, the annual.
Because somehow more people will read a Supergirl annual of an ongoing run than a random one shot.
Right. And this plays off of the last issue of Supergirl, more so than those other ones did, because Hawkman didn't get his. His was just the issue, the last, the Sky Tyrant stuff.
Yeah.
So it plays in with that too. And no, Venditti's really good at this. I feel like he, like Connor brought up, like Abnett is.
To be fair, I think it's just a case of ongoing titles. Like Shazam technically has an ongoing title, but given all the delays and such that were going on in the scheduling.
But does that matter though for an annual? Like, 'cause it's going to be completely standalone.
No, I would say yes, in the sense that it looks bad for the optics of, hey, we're pushing back issue 7 again, but here's an annual. I think it looks bad in that regard, and Blue Beetle doesn't have an ongoing book, so that kind of explains that one.
Yeah. Honestly, I think this is perfectly fine. I think if you want a decent kind of teenage Supergirl story of before she leaves Krypton, I think you're going to get a nice little issue. Is it worth spending the $5 on it? I don't know. It's debatable. It's
if you're already reading Supergirl and you're collecting,
sure.
Yes. If you're just reading to read, I would save the money, get it on a sale. Unless you have the completionist mindset.
Yeah, the same argument goes for if you're planning on reading and buying all of the, infected and that story of stuff, that event, and you want this as part of that lead-in, then you'd probably want it for that reason.
Yeah. But at the same time, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than a lot of the other things I've read so far this week. So, yeah, I would probably. I should return to, for me. I'll rate first, uncharacteristically, just because I feel like it keeps sounding like I'm copying Matt, so I'm going first this time. He can copy me if he wants. But I'm going with another 7.5. This is the weakest 7.5s is the high end. But here I am again.
I'm going to go with an 8, mainly for the hockey. I got really excited, guys. I sat down to read this after I just watched a Golden Knights game.
Did you lose?
And yeah, right. And they went in a shootout, and I go to read this, and I'm like, oh man, the universe just keeps giving. So, oh yeah. Connor?
I didn't read it, did I?
You didn't read it.
I've not been reading the book.
He's not reading Supergirl.
But I still figured because of the tie-in aspect.
Well, I didn't realize it. One, I didn't realize it was a tie-in until you started talking, and two, I haven't been reading the other tie-ins.
Gotcha.
Well, I tried Shazam, and that was terrible, and I was like, I don't want to read the rest of these. So that probably wouldn't have made me positive about this. I mean, at least this one was Venditti, so maybe if I'd known, I might have.
I only read one of those infected one-shots. This was much better than that one. I'll say that much.
Yes.
Oh, I believe you. I really do.
Yeah. All right. I guess that'll wrap up Supergirl Annual Issue 2 and take us on to Tales from the Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis Issue 1. James Tynion IV writing and Aaron Lopresti on the art.
So I hope you guys have read Infinite Crisis before.
Oh yeah,
come on.
See. Well, no, but I think Carmine makes a good point. I think if you haven't read Infinite Crisis, even though it tries to kind of recap some of it, I feel like if you don't already have a basic understanding of it, this issue will be a nightmare to follow.
I think this issue, compared to the other Dark Multiverse issues, suffers in that regard. The other ones have been particularly well-known stories, or even if you've never read them, they're really easy to explain in like a couple of sentences, right? Nightfall, Death of Superman, Blackest Night. It's Green Lantern zombies. That's kind of all you need to know enough for this. Infinite Crisis? Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, especially since the book does actually have little like winks and nods to all the other parts of it. You know, it has winks and nods to Secret Six. It has a part where Blue Beetle stops the Rann-Thanagar War, which is a big part of the whole build-up to Infinite Crisis. There's a lot of these things that it connects to.
Yeah, he circumvents the OMAC project. He keeps the villains from uniting. He prevents the Rann-Thanagar War, and denies the Spectre's Day of Vengeance.
Do you know what's funny about this is that I think I I enjoyed this because I love Infinite Crisis. So all the little ways it sort of circumvented all those elements, I was really into. I do think this one was the longest one to read because it felt so goddamn wordy compared to the others.
I think it's because they were like, we need to at least try and give the people who didn't read it a chance.
I know, but jeez.
Yeah. And when you try to explain Infinite Crisis, you also need to have an understanding of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Just the bare minimum of how that ends and where they go away to, and then being disappointed in Superman or Superboy Prime.
That's the thing.
Punching reality.
It's a sequel in many ways to Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's picking up on a lot of stuff left over from Identity Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all its own. You've got the Secret Six, you've got the Checkmate stuff, you've got the Ran Thanagar War, you've got OMA, you've got everything that this deals with as well. There's so many threads to this book that I think if you're a fan of that period of comics and you've read that, I think this is a great issue. I kind of love it because of that, and because I like those things.
And so I don't know if I really enjoyed it because, like Pete says, I already like Crisis on Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, the caveat I was going to say though to it is that I don't necessarily know if I buy that Blue Beetle does all this necessarily, like the core motivation.
I do. I do because it's not just the motivation; it's the nanotech, right?
Yeah.
He's being played by Brother Eye as much as Brother Eye is.
Sure. Okay, that's fair.
That's right.
Fair. Yeah.
So that's how I read it, because by the time you get to the end and he ends up killing his best friend, that's the final thing.
I got to the end of this book.
Eye's taking over.
I got to the end of this book, and like Booster Gold's trying to talk Blue Beetle down, because at this point Blue Beetle's like he's become like super Brother Eye like man, right? And he's assimilating the Justice League, and Booster Gold's trying to talk him down, and Brother Eye's like, no, you must remove the Booster Gold hero. He is part of the heroes and will destroy this whole plan. You must remove emotion from the equation. And he's like, no, damn it, I want to listen to Booster. And then Brother Eye just takes over. And the final like page, or not the final page, but one of the final parts of this is basically that Death of Superman panel of Lois holding Superman, but it's Blue Beetle holding Booster Gold. And I thought to myself, oh well, Matt just blew his load.
Yeah,
super sad.
I love the art, and this Lopresti is perfect for this era of comics. That they're doing.
I'm not gonna lie, this made me want to do something with reading all this stuff again.
He did. Like, and as much as I love all this stuff, we don't have the time for all that.
However, that said, I'm closing out on Checkmate, which made me want to go back and check out the OMAC project, because it's been forever since I read that.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have went and picked up the OMAC project. Which this double reinforced, like, yes, go. And then this opened me up to a bigger question of, is this my favorite era of comics because it's when I first got into it? Or is it because the stories were better or more my speed?
A level of interconnectivity that we don't have now.
Yeah.
In some people might see that as a positive and some as a negative, in the sense that, now we have a lot of great standalone stories consistently, but when they do the connectivity, I think it's not done as well. See the Doom symbol.
So when I first was getting into comics and stuff, it was right around Infinite Crisis, and the lead up to that, you had Crisis of Conscience, where they found out that they were mind wiping people from Identity Crisis and whatnot, and when they started rolling out these minis, I only picked up Villains United and OMAC Project. I still haven't read, what was it, Day of Judgment or Day of Vengeance?
Yeah, Day of Vengeance.
Or Ran Thanagar War.
There was the Superman, Wonder Woman, Shazam story in there that was really good. Obviously, I had the Secret Six, Villains United one, and all that stuff.
I read that, and then I read Secret Six coming out of that by Simone. And I picked up OMAC Project mostly because of Booster. And at that time, I was like, oh, this Greg Rucka guy, he seems to write really well.
Yeah, and Crisis of Conscience, that was just an arc in JLA at the time, right? But
that was JLA, but that was John's.
That was
picking
John's.
Up from Meltzer, right?
It was very much a time in comics where you were dropped in the deep end.
Oh yeah, I mean, I read all this stuff.
I swam. I learned to swim quick.
I read all this stuff properly in order because they put out the omnibus, and this was back when I was still getting physical collections and stuff, and I got the omnibus, and it had all the build-up stuff, and I read all that up until Infinite Crisis.
So that's where I said, like, I don't know if I really enjoyed this just out of nostalgia, or because this is a time of comics that I super really care about, and this is like my jam, like from right before Infinite Crisis to the end of Blackest Night. Like that's my prime era.
Which to be fair, it's only 2 or 3 years. That is not a long time.
I know.
It's actually quite a quick window.
So much happens.
We have been doing the podcast longer than that window was.
Yeah. Well, like, and that's where we also had like the Lightning Saga and GLA, JSA, you know, those all clicking. The Teen Titans, like Johns is at his height. You have Morrison, Rucka, Johns, and Wade doing 52.
Yeah.
Think about that lineup.
Yeah, like, it's insane. The mid to late 2000s was a great time for DC.
It's true golden era.
This book,
and then,
itself,
and then the New 52 came along and took it back and shot it with a shotgun.
Yeah.
And as much as we all, for the most part, are pretty positive on Rebirth as a whole.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, not every book, but generally speaking, Rebirth has been good. It's not ever hit those heights as a whole.
Back and reading Checkmate, and Checkmate reads just as well 10 years later. You know, more than that, 15 years later.
I've picked up the 2 volumes in the so because there was sale on Comixology last week, the Road to Black Friday one, and then they did the buy one get one free sale, and there's a little bit of overlap if you get in like half an hour before the sale.
Yeah, you've got about an hour's window where you can get buy one get one free on the sale prices, and you get ridiculously cheap stuff.
Going the other way, you actually have a lot more time. So at the end, if you add any 2 DC books to your cart now, and you put in the code and don't buy them, what you can do is where on Tuesday or whenever it is and the sale changes, you can delete the 2 books in your cart and add in whatever you want, and the code will still apply.
Wow.
And that'll last until you use it. You got one chance once it ends, but you can give it like a week if you really wanted to.
Assuming there's a good sale on afterwards.
Yeah. Right.
But if there's not, if there's not, and you don't buy, your singles on there monthly, so you don't have to wait. You've got until Wednesday.
Sure.
You could actually wait till the following week and use it then.
Right.
Yeah. But this is actually kind of more of an exploit than something that's supposed to happen. So don't tell don't tell them. Don't tell Comixology.
Yeah. But with this book right now, it. I don't want to say it was my favorite of them, but it does do its job as a dark what if. I think almost better than some of the others.
What I like about it in terms of being a dark what if is that it actually takes a while before it turns dark. For a while, it's almost like Booster. Sorry, not Booster. Not Booster. But I was trying to say Ted Cord, but I said Bluster. But Ted Cord, like when he. Like for a while, it's like no, he's actually kind of doing good. He's kind of solving everything, and everything's fine. He stopped all these bad things.
Yeah.
Him and Sasha or Sasha Bordeaux, they are Checkmate effectively, and they start fixing the stuff that we all saw went wrong. But then we find out like, oh no, some of the stuff needed to happen. Like Alexander Luthor needed to win a little bit during Crisis.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's in charge for months, and then eventually Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime show up to explain, hey, we're doing this thing, we should work together. And then he basically talks Superboy Prime into turning on Alexander Luthor, and that's probably the most violent we get in this book, is Superboy Prime burns him alive with his heat vision in a full-page spread.
Well, that's because Alexander Luthor unleashes this kryptonite acid that kills Kal-El and Golden Age Lois.
Yeah.
You know?
But
so, yeah.
It's brutal.
But yeah.
Just say Earth 2. Just say Earth 2 Superman. When you say Kal-El out loud, you can't tell that it's spelled differently.
I know. I didn't think about that.
I mean, to be fair, there's the common conception of, okay, that's Kal-El and the other one is Clark or Superman. Right. So I think there is a clear distinction, even when you're saying it in context.
But either way, they get killed, and LEOMACS take over. Brother Eye wins. And it's basically Skynet DCU, by the end there, and Tempest Fuginaut. Like, oh man, that did it?
Yeah. In terms of the only thing that does weaker than the Crisis 7 in terms of the beats that it's aiming on is Superboy Prime's shift to evil.
Right.
I think it kind of misses a beat there where, because we're so caught up in Ted's
he never gets that opportunity to fully break bad, right? Because he's changing things, but
like it starts to happen when he goes after the Titans and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going
Right.
to hurt you unless you resist. Please resist." And you
Right.
you see it there, but it's not the big deal that it was because we're caught up
No.
with Ted. And I feel like that's just you could have still had that be a little bit more effective.
I think that's just a sign that the book's focus wasn't on that. Like, that was something that has to happen because it's just part of the plot. But the book wasn't interested in exploring why he turns evil. It was more about just how Ted's.
I don't think I needed
changes.
to be why. I just think I needed a little like something in the middle of he's Ted's right hand man to, oh, I'm going to hurt you now. It just kind of. It's just a very sudden switch. There's no kind of build to it at all. I just needed like an extra scene in the middle.
To be fair, out of the 4 of these we've had, only Blackest Night's been, I'd say, bad.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is bad for a certain audience. I think this is the least accessible, by far.
But for us,
it's
kind of my favorite in the sense of seeing all these things. I like in the art. There's some great touches, like when in this book, Ted shoots Maxwell Lord.
Yeah.
It's the exact same panel as the original, but reversed. It's down to the exact same sound effect. Like,
which I might have picked that up as well.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is great. I'm so into this stuff. These little referencing bits, and I think just seeing it all, the descent into the madness for Ted. You're actually seeing that, like you say, things are going well seemingly at first, and it doesn't feel as immediately shite as all the rest of the worlds did. Like even Death of Superman, where it was like, oh, Lois is doing some good. It was like 2 pages later. Okay, now she's not doing so much good.
Oh yeah.
Whereas
because we believe in Ted, and we know that he didn't kill Maxwell Lord out of a sense of going dark. It was, well, no, it's kill or be killed, and I got him.
Yeah.
So, and then where those dominoes fall later,
the stuff with Ted, like feeling overlooked by the Trinity, is great.
Yeah. No, really, I really enjoyed this. A little bit long, but other than that, really enjoyed it.
It's just honestly, these issues, if nothing else, have made me feel like I'm not reading enough old DC stuff right now. So I mean, maybe that'll lead to something.
Yeah, because I know me and Pete are at the minute working through Crisis on Infinite Earths. I kind of want to, after that, let's just move through, like, rough. I'll cherry pick, obviously, but kind of go through in some semblance of order.
Hey, post-crisis.
The 0 hour.
Post-crisis is a really good place to start with a lot of things because everything's kind of fresh after that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You got Burns Superman, you got Perez Wonder Woman.
I know. I think. What's the website?
Yeah, Batman Year One's not like immediate, but it's like pretty close after. Yeah.
Comic book reading orders has like a master list of here is the post-crisis reading order, and it's like everything. And they kind of do stuff like they shunt in a lot of like older things that are like flashbacks and stuff, that are set in that time period. If you wanted to do it that way as well, but
honestly, I was actually floating an idea to you two before we started tonight's show, and the best place to start that idea would be post-crisis in 1986.
That's too much.
Yeah. I know.
That's too much, Pete.
I absolutely know. But basically, my idea for everyone at home was I wanted to essentially do a duplicate version of the show, but instead of doing this week's comics, it was this week's comics in whatever year we were on. So 1986, I guess, would be where it starts.
When he started suggesting this, he was like, "I got an idea." I thought, he said, Infinite Crisis. This one shot got me thinking. I was like, "Oh, he's going to suggest like adding in like an issue a week at the end of the show or something," and then he's like, "Let's just do the whole week. Let's do this entire podcast again."
It wasn't a suggestion that I thought was going to go anywhere. I was just saying it was a good idea. I think it's a good idea. Call it post-crisis from the multiverse. I don't know. It's a wonderful idea.
Oh man, pre-crisis, post-crisis.
I'm not going pre-crisis, Matt. There's enough post-crisis to keep me covered for decades.
Yeah.
Don't need to be added in pre-crisis to the mix as well.
Damn it! Now knowing that Pete's read Day of Vengeance and I never have.
If it makes you feel a bit better, I'll be able to remember it, but...
Right, but still. So the Shadow Pack comes from?
Yep.
And I know all of the stuff. I just never got around to it.
I am grateful for Wikipedia these days.
Oh, it's
the DC
essential
Wiki.
for
That's...
comic book reading. It's essential to have a nice wiki at the ready.
Yeah, like because if you wanted to just jump into Matt's been reading Checkmate. There's a whole ton of context that you should probably know before you start reading that book.
Yeah. However, you probably should read OMAC Project before, because that sets it all up.
See what I mean?
But if you don't, it's very accessible. Rucka does a good job at setting up. This is a brand new version of Checkmate. It's UN chartered now. It's not a secret organization.
But just the DC universe as a whole at that time had a lot going on. So if you want to spend 10 minutes reading a wiki page for like, okay, what was going on at that time, you will enjoy the story probably a lot more.
Or you just go back to Crisis on Infinite Earths and read everything published since that date, and you'll be fine.
Hey, DC Universe Service is going to make that pretty accessible. If you want,
I have one complaint. There's one flaw in my idea to match the release weeks and do like a retro podcast as if you were going through that time period. Is that once you go past a certain sort of time period, going back the way from today, is that it's really hard to find actual release dates for the comic books. You can only find the cover month, which is like 2 months later. Actually finding the exact date so you can put them out in weeks is nigh on impossible. So there would have to be some creative, like, just way to divvy it up.
Some massive jiggery pokery.
Just, so I could say, like, okay, this is what September's was, right? I could get as a list of September's books and then just pick what the weeks are.
And you know that this has to take place before that, so...
Yeah, to a point. But for the most part, it's like, okay, you've got an issue of Batman, an issue of Wonder Woman, an issue of Superman or whatever. Whatever order will do. But I don't know.
It's not happening, people.
I may do it on my own.
He won't.
The people want it. The people want it.
So while you guys are talking, I'm looking up CBR to see if any news has happened. And this is what passes for news, that apparently now there is a nonpartisan Uno game where they took out the red and blue cards and swapped them for purple and orange.
Yeah, this is what happens at Thanksgiving weekend.
The use of blue and red does not mean that there's any political...
Pete, I know it says no on the box. It says no red or blue cards means no taking sides. Because when I'm playing Uno, I'm thinking about politics and not utterly destroying the other players.
Who's going, I need all the red cards.
They're just colors. They're just colors for the sake of having a color.
And this is news on CBR. Like, I'm just checking to see maybe something's wrong.
It's a slow news weekend. Just
man,
it happens.
Oh Jesus!
One of my favorite memes is I'm about to mess this kid's world up, and it's got like three draw fours on it. Oh man, it's a good game. It was a good game.
Maybe I'll start my crazy idea after me and Connor have done Crisis, if that's my starting point. If Crisis of Infinite Earths is the starting point, then after that I'll start my thing.
We need a picture of Pete with the crazy Lex Luthor.
I've read the
one at the end of Batman Superman, where he goes, "There's a crisis." That's what we need.
You've read one issue, is that it, Pete?
Of the 12, yes. One of 12.
In about 2 weeks.
I'm just starting to gear up now. I'm starting to ramp up. I'll read issue 2 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Look, they're like 30-page issues of really dense 80s material, okay? They take a lot out of you.
They do. I've been reading it as I've been falling asleep. I've done 6 issues now.
Like I think it's legitimately over like 2 minutes per page, which is, different from a modern comic where it's less than a minute per page.
Sometimes significantly less.
Yeah.
But there are some great layouts in that book, though.
Oh, sure. But like, I feel like when I'm reading a page from Crisis on Infinite Earths, it is taking me 2 to 3 minutes per page, which means that the whole thing is taking me...
Like an hour.
Yeah, like an hour. Because it's so goddamn dense. Oh, dear. Yeah. Anyway.
We've got about a little under 2 weeks to try and get that done.
If it's going to hit before Crisis, I'm not necessarily that upset if it's going to be in between the two parts of the TV Crisis.
There are worse things that could happen.
Yeah.
Other than our busy schedule in those 2 weeks.
I'm not too upset about that, but no, I'll read issue 2 tomorrow, right? It's happening. Anyway, so What are we talking about? Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Infinite Crisis issue
Yeah,
1.
let's rate it.
Let's rate it. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor?
I'm going to 9 because I had a blast.
I have some reservations because I don't feel like I feel like part of us is just as good as it is just because we all love this era and we love all the things.
The nostalgia.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the straight 8, which is the highest I've rated a book so far. So credit where credit is due. So that'll take us on to Basketful of Heads issue 2. Joe Hill and LEOMACS on the art. Yes, there's the 2 pages of the backup story, but I mean, we're not going to talk about it.
I didn't read them this time because I'm not playing with 2 plate pages.
Yeah, I'm not playing with 2 pages either. It's annoying. It's an annoying chunk to read.
Yep, it is. Just give us the book. Just read us a Hill House special. That's Seawolves. We'll be good.
Yeah, do a one shot. Do a one shot with all the pages together. Go for it.
They undoubtedly will once it's all done.
Yeah.
Probably. So I loved issue 1 of this, and I was looking forward to this, and I'm happy to say it did not disappoint, and I thought this was another great issue.
Yep.
The only problem is it moves way too quick, and I need more of it right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, when you don't have a lot of words, it does read quickly.
Yep.
But here's the thing with horror: is horror works best when it's silent, and it should be light on the words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that, but I like it, and I want more.
I'll get Joe on the phone.
so
I'll get
many
Joe on the
pages.
phone
Yes.
and just say to him, "Hey, can you do 2 issues a month? Can you double ship this bitch?" Because Matt's really upset that
Yes,
he's having to wait a
thank you.
month between issues.
That would
If you
be
could do
lovely.
that, please. While you have him on the phone, tell him to put Sea Dogs in a special, all right? That'd be good. Because I also want to love that, but I can't at 2 pages at a time.
Oh dear. So yeah, we ended the last issue with the criminals were in the house and June was hiding, and we kind of pick up right there. It does this great thing where everything's this sort of muted purples and dark, but obviously you've got the orange jumpsuits, so the criminals sticking out, the main long-haired guys especially, as he's creaking about, and she's hiding in the hamper. So, yeah, and we see time passes, and she gets up and she's sneaking around. She sees a finger cut out, cut off from someone, and
Just blood all over the floor. And this is, like there's quite a few pages of this here, just, her getting out, the time passing, her getting out,
so
looking around the house.
and you feel the time passing, which is really good. So I've got a question. So the main criminal with the long hair shows up behind her and says, "Got a light." Connor, did you take this as a Twin Peaks reference? Because I felt it.
Yeah.
I was getting Twin Peaks: The Return from that moment.
It felt like, especially the way he's just standing there dead-eyed.
Yeah, I think Joe Hill's seems like it's the sort of guy who's watched Twin Peaks, and
I bet he loved that season.
yeah. So June grabs the axe that was teased last issue. He's like, "I ain't gonna use that. Yeah, it's a little girl. I think your mate's going that." And he's kind of like mocking her, waving his flashlight around, and she's going for the
because
the door.
he reaches into his jumpsuit, and he's got a gun, which makes her up the level down on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And off goes pieces of his hand with the gun into the ocean.
Oh, you're skipping it. I was going to talk about the trip because she trips out the door, and I felt that actually.
Yeah.
The little close up, the little sort of snap close up of the ankle.
Looked like a very annoying sprain, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Because before we get down to the beach, we actually have this sort of like town view of this road where we see it's flooding. We see like the water in the boat flood. So we see that the island's actually under quite a bit of water right now.
I love the we talk about like the pacing with the time passing as well.
Mm-hmm.
This transition into this storm, you just have the big crack of lightning. Is literally the word is the panel, and the lightning through it. It's great.
Yeah, it's building an atmosphere, and yeah, like you say, she gets down to the beach. He comes after her. There's a convenient basket of flowers. Just sort of, is it flowers?
It's like beach toys.
Oh, it's beach toys, right?
Like a spade and stuff like that.
And she actually, first of all, cuts off the tip of his foot. We see it like flying off, so he's lost his toes and one foot. And then she whacks the axe at his hand, which takes off the gun and obviously some of his fingers. And then and it looks like a golf swing. She looks like she's Happy Gilmore swinging the golf stick. The golf club, sorry. And
Philistine.
Philistine.
There you go. But you see his head go fly. Do you know my favorite part of this is that the lighting or whatever you want to call it from the swing of the axe. It
like an explosion.
It almost looks like a nuclear blast.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane.
I like when she loads up and you can see the red on the axe blade.
Yeah, it's like
It's
a blood.
glowing. It knows it's about to get what it wants.
It's
To get fed.
it's like a blood vein. It's a blood vessel on the on the axe tip. So, you know, then she's pissed at herself because the gun gets washed away, and she's like, "Damn it, you needed that." Because she wants to go and find where the boyfriend is. You know, he claims that they're safe right now, but like, you know, it's like,
well, yeah, he wouldn't talk, so they cut off his finger. The boyfriend.
Yeah,
and it's his finger we saw up there.
So he's presumably with the wife and the sheriff and wherever the other criminals have taken him. So June's kind of become this almost like unlikely hero who's maybe the one who can go and help them because she's on her own. She's got an axe. And then we have, of course, him talking to her, and it's all this upside down panels because it's his POV because his head's upside down. And she's sort of coming close to him, and she's like, "What the hell?" And he's like, "You know, help me, come back, please. The water's coming. Like, don't, like, you know, let me drown." Yeah. He's been a bit of a snivelling little shit, but he's still talking. His decapitated head, which we knew was coming because the whole concept of the book is the
head still talks.
Yeah, the head's in the basket. So she goes and gets this basket that was sitting there, empties it, and puts his head in there. And it's like, well, we have to go and see if we can get help and find the others and. Talk to the police.
Yeah, she's like, I need to call the police. You know, you need help. What about me? She goes, shut up, or I'll see how far I can kick you.
And the final page of the story is the rest of his body is like, you know, lying on the beach. The water's coming in, and it washes his like, you know, jumpsuit apart a little bit, and we see he's got a police badge. Now, I don't think the twist here is that he's a cop. I think the twist here is that that's either her boyfriend or the sheriff's badge that he's taken.
I agree, because we
I don't
know there
know.
was escaped convicts.
Yeah, but what if it's the cops posing as these convicts, so they wanted something from the cop, from the chief?
I don't think they've set up for that, but I mean, it's possible.
I don't know because they set it up in the first issue that these are non-violent guys that got out. You know.
Sure. Okay.
So I'm thinking that this is the cover, you know, because he said this panel tells me that he's a cop because the way that he reaches in and grabs the gun. And the flashlight, like, it's very...
No, that makes sense. But I was just wondering, you know, why? What sort of impact would that reveal have?
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, like I kind of left to, well, that doesn't really seem to track immediately. So I went with, okay, he's taken this off them and he's wearing it as just to mock them, essentially.
Yeah, it almost makes it feel like they might actually already be dead. Like, you know, the reason why he's already taking stuff off them, you know, kind of thing. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to have killed them, but it gives you that kind of feeling of like, no, maybe they are screwed.
Yeah, and I was getting De Niro and Cape Fear vibes off this guy, the way that he was talking. You know, just calling her, you know, sweetheart and whatnot. But yeah, very, very.
Oh yeah,
very...
there's definitely a rapiness to him as well. Where you feel like she's in trouble and she has to fight back.
There's a bit early on where he goes, "Oh, are you hot? I'm boiling," and it's like he's just kind of probing it. Yeah, you know, it's let's relax a bit.
Yeah. So really good. The pacing's wonderful. The art's great. Really fits the tone of what the book's doing. I have nothing bad to say.
So everything except that the pacing's too good.
The pacing's too good. The only problem with this is that it's almost
graphic novel.
The only problem with this is it's almost too good. Is what Matt's trying to say.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
Give us a 9.5.
Connor.
I'm going with just a straight 9, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with a straight 9 as well. So no surprise what's going to be at the top of my list at the end of the show. Given that nothing else has came close to that. So that'll take us on to some Patreon books. So that was the last of the new books, and basically to explain this, every month on patreon.com/BailFuzzTV, there's a tier where you can make me or Connor read a book, and Connor has a couple to do, I have one to do, and just the way things have fell, we're doing all three today on this final week of the month. So Connor, first up, is going to talk about Red Hood Outlaw issue 37.
If you insist.
Written by Scott Lobdell, art by Kenneth Rocofort.
Just make it quick, Connor.
I mean, I'll try.
I know, the patron has to get their money's worth. They can't be skimping it.
This book, and bear in mind, it's been a couple of months since I read the last issue because I had an annual last time. And I was like, what the hell happened? I remember the arc finishing and then Lex showing up, and I was like, wait, what happened? So he is he's a teacher now. He's a teacher for supervillain assassins or something. Yeah, they're in the place in the center of the earth that the name I'm blanking on entirely. Yeah, you got all the people down there. So he's down there, and Lex has put him in there, and he's got a class of villains to be, and we've got a roll call here. So we've got Babe in Arms, which is
classic.
Yep, it's a young a young child being held by the mother figure. The mother is very mummy sort of looking, kind of all wrapped in bandages and stuff like that. Then you've got Cloud9,
legendary.
Yeah, who he calls Cloud Girl first, but she's like, no, it's Cloud9. You've got DNA,
iconic.
Yeah, and Devour.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, and these guys are like, yeah, what the hell are we doing here? We're supposed to be learning how to enslave cities, genocide, rule the world, all that sort of shit. And Jason's like, all right, fine. Whoever can take me down gets to teach the class. And then instead of cutting to that fight scene, we jump back 2 weeks earlier to Jason, kind of getting this. He's like, he goes, how did I let Lex Lucifer talk me into this? I'm like, really? You're going with Lex Lucifer?
So dumb.
Okay, fine. So Lex gave him a bank card and told him to go to this particular ATM, but no PIN card. But he puts in the PIN number, sorry. But he puts in the card, and he is teleported to the center of the earth. Then it's Dr. Veritas who's there, and she's kind of running this. And he's like, I thought you were dead. And she's like, well, you should know better. You've been in Lazarus pits. You should know more about who's dead and who's not. And she talks about how she's friends with Superman, which we know. And he's like, then if you're best friends with Superman, why are you doing this for Luthor? Training the kids to be the next generation of supervillains. And she's like, for science. I don't believe in good or evil. Just the science. And she's like, well, why are you doing it if you're not as bad as you claim? And he's just like, well, if I didn't, Luthor would give them to the Joker or Cheetah or someone else. So maybe I can make them not as bad. And then we have I've been noticing since I did a Gen X, I've been noticing the captions, the placements.
Mm-hmm.
And so this started with it said 2 weeks earlier, which was fine. And then the next section starts with now, which is, again, fine. We're establishing that we're swapping. What really bothers me is that just between, Jason saying, these are the best chance I've got, it says end interlude. And then it says now. There was no start interlude. There was just 2 weeks earlier, now. The interlude comment is completely irrelevant. I'm not entirely sure why that felt the need to be there. But then we cut to the fight. I think that's Devour, who's got like cyborg arms and stuff, and Cloud9 is a cloud. Things go through her. DNA is like some sort of living strand of DNA. He can kind of mutate it to whatever he wants. So he's got he's made himself into tentacles and stuff. So they're all fighting, and surprise, surprise, none of them really win. He takes them all down. But the notable absence is Babe in Arms is not really doing anything. And then it turns out that the baby just starts talking, because the baby's the brains of the duo, and the mother is just the one holding the gun and carrying the baby. It's all very weird. But yeah, he's like, oh, you failed your first test. Then we actually have another interlude where we cut to somewhere else. And again, this is on the really bad location establishing panel. Somewhere else, a quantum dimension between here and elsewhere. So that's already 2. Then we have a third one, specifically the remains of the Outlaw's former headquarters. And then a fourth one, created by an impossibly and temporarily brilliant teammate. Like, did we really need all that? God damn it, Lobdell. But yeah, no, it's just Artemis and Bizarro. She's taught him yoga. for whatever reason. He says, "Me am namaste," and she gives him back the Superman doll, pup, and yeah, but he's like, "Yeah, that's not really what we're here for." And it's not something I forgot; it's somebody. So I'm sure that's going to carry on. Back to all the villain kids. They're in a dorm and they're all sharing a room, and bit of a tussle breaks out between them, just because reasons, basically. I think there doesn't really seem to be any reason other than they're all cramped up in one room, so they're all going to just duke it out a bit. We get to Star Labs, and we get Jason's taken the team now with him. They're on a kind of a trial mission, and they're like, "Oh, we've got a metahuman here to rescue from Star Labs. We're going to take him back down to the center of the Earth and train him, with the class." And then the reveal of who it is that they're there to rescue.
That sounds like it's going to be good. Go on.
Do you guys remember Doomed?
I try not to.
I never read Doomed.
Yeah, well, it's Doomed.
What do you mean? Doomed was a character?
Yeah, he was. Before Damage, they tried to do a Hulk-like character, but with the Doomsday DNA, and it was all Lobdell, and I couldn't get farther away from it.
Yep, it was terrible. I don't know. I tried. I just assumed it was terrible. It was a terrible concept, is what it really means. Yeah, Doomed's bloody here.
Yeah, that was after the Super Doom BS.
Yeah, it was right after that. I kind of spun out of that.
Yep.
It's just what everyone wanted.
Tear bad.
Yep, and it's back. I mean, to be honest, I'm thinking it's Doomed. I don't recognize it well enough, but they go, "Hey, it looks an awful lot like Doomsday's kid brother." So, and there it is at the bottom. Next, Doomed Generation. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Doomed.
Sad trombone.
So Cara's going to have to continue reading Red Hood. That is now going to include Doomed.
Hey, and Cloud9. Don't you forget about Cloud9. Oh, it's terrible. Rocofort's, solid as ever. It's Rocofort. He's on his standard game. You kind of know what to expect. I don't think he works as well as shadowy as this book is right now. I think he does better with some light in his work. But yeah, I mean, he's fine. Still a terrible book though, so it's like a 3.
All right. Well, I guess that'll take me on to American Vampire issue 1, which Tyler wanted me to read, and it's a bit longer than I was anticipating because, as I said earlier, there is like a whole backup story, which isn't just a few pages; it is like another 15 pages or whatever it is. It's a pretty meaty issue.
But I mean, Tyler's being kind still. I had to read a 40-page annual last month of Red Hood.
Yes, this is true. So, American Vampire is a book I've read before, and I haven't read all of the second cycle stuff because it started getting delayed so much that I kind of fell away from it during that point.
That's where I've fallen off too, and it was getting really good with the new big bad they were bringing in. Yeah. So this is Scott Snyder writing with Rafael Albuquerque on the art. The opening of the book kind of sets up, so it's that classic thing where it's like in the future and we cut back to previous. Interestingly, it doesn't actually catch up to this in this issue. It's kind of seen that for next time. It's just a car in the middle of nowhere outside of Los Angeles. It's 1925, and we see like the bodies in the car. Like one of the characters is Pearl from later. Now, admittedly, I recognised her better reading it just now because I already know the character. I don't know the first time I read this if I like clocked in the next couple of pages when I went back in time, like, is this the character I just saw? I probably did, but it was obviously more obvious this time. So we meet Pearl and her roommate Hattie. They are movie extras, 1925, keep in mind. So this is before the talkies. But that's something that's brought up in the book at one point. And if there's something to get me into a story,
in this time period is to tie it to Hollywood and kind of put it in the context of the history of cinema. And they're kind of joking about how the big actor in the movie they're really attracted to, or at least Hattie is anyway, and how he's a dreamboat and, you know, all that. And right away there's some good banter between them, and like, it's okay, so next take we have to be scared. You know, tell me something scary, because this is like take, you know, 8 or whatever it is. And Pearl just says the rent's due tomorrow, and then they both scream. So there's a bit of humour. It gets you kind of on their side. It gets you kind of rooting for them, makes them likeable. It sets up there's a weird guy outside their apartment building, who I know is Skinner Sweet, just because I know what Skinner Sweet looks like. But just that he's sitting there, they're teasing that he's, you know, up to no good. And we see that Pearl has a job. She's like a hostess at a club. She has another job in the morning. And this guy's been trying to ask her out for coffee. He offers to walk her to her next job. They kind of get to know each other a little bit. We find out he's a bit of a drifter with his guitar. And, you know, we find out that she's wanting to be an actor. And she's always tempted to go home and things like that. And she has a tattoo of like this flower that grew in her parents' garden or whatever. But then the thing that really propels the story forward is that she is chosen to sort of stand in for the main actress in the movie with the lead actor for a lighting test. And as they're sort of standing in place, they're kind of, you know, talking to each other, and she's being kind of charming, he's been charming, and he invites her to a party at the producer's house. BD Block being the producer, or it's BD Bloch. I'm saying it the Scottish way. I'm assuming because it looks like a Scottish word to me.
Yeah, but I would say Block.
Yeah, I'd say Block.
You had a lot of German and like families of German immigrants at that time coming into the industry. So yeah, I'd say Block.
Yeah, okay. So she's off to that part of the night. Skinner kind of tries to talk her out of it. Says, "Oh, you might regret." I mean, he doesn't really. Like, he kind of does it in a way where he doesn't really care if she goes or not, but he's like, hey, I'd probably not go to that. It's probably a bad idea. You'll probably regret it in the morning. And she tells him to mind his own business, and that she's going off. So she takes her roommate, and they go to this big fancy party. You know, everyone's in tuxedos, and everyone's all smiles and whatnot. And the actor takes her to a back room to meet the producer Block, BD Block. And when she's left there in the room on her own with Block and his buddies, we can kind of see in the art that they've all got vampire teeth. And they get very intimidating. The colouring was very red, obviously insinuating danger. And the final page of the main story is all these like in silhouette vampires, but you can still see the teeth in the eyes jumping at her. So yeah, the first issue is just the build up to her meeting the vampires and like just her on her way to doom. So the first, I mean, I'll get to the backup story, but the main story is very successful in making us like the character, so that we care a little bit when she's attacked at the end. Now, obviously, the story's going to go places where this is clearly what has to be here to start the story, but it does a really good job of making me like her, giving me a sense of the world, because one of the things that happens throughout American Vampire is that each story arc takes place in a different year, a different time period, and each one does a really good job of kind of setting up the mood of each time, and this kind of does that as well. And it's using like the old Hollywood system as like a sort of cover for this vampire producer who uses the actor to lure in young girls and so on.
Right, it's like the higher ups, the higher classes exploiting the underclass. Yeah, and this point actually for food, but yeah, and then we get Skinner, who now you'll get to see his origin here.
Yeah, because he's just a tease in the main story. Then we get a story called Bad Blood, which is the backup, which is written by Stephen King, of all people. It's still
Joe Hill's dad.
Interestingly, it's still Albuquerque on the art. I wonder how the schedule stuck with us at the time.
So apparently, if I remember right, Snyder approached him to write a foreword or something for it, and he was like, "Oh wait, no, I like this idea. What's Skinner's background?" And Snyder told him, I guess, what he goes, do you mind if I write that? So it was like Stephen King's like first, I think, like actual foray into comics. I might be remembering this now. It's been a very long time.
Didn't he get involved in some of the Dark Tower stuff at Marvel?
I don't know if he was hands-on writing the scripts though.
Yeah.
I thought that was more oversight.
Yeah, because this is all him. Like this backup. I'm sure it's by him and Snyder, but from what Snyder said, he's responsible for Skinner's origin.
That's cool. Yeah, so it's told kind of from the 1925 present by Will Bunting, who's writing this story. Who he's kind of writing it as fiction, as he says at the end of the book, because he knows no one will believe him. But it sets up that Skinner was this really bad guy when he was a human, because Skinner's a vampire. Just which I don't think is a spoiler, but if you've read the first issue, which again, if you're listening to Eddie's conversations about these books, you always have to assume spoilers for the issue I'm talking about. But so he's on a train being transported. He's a convicted criminal. He's chained up, and we have the lawman who's taking him in, and we have the owner of the bank, who turns out to be the vampire in this case, who is robbing from. But Skinner's got his buddies, his outlaws, who are going to actually derail the train from the outside. So we have the guy who keeps complaining about the sunshine, and he's like, the sun's harsh on my skin, and all the rest of it. And Skinner's threatening the lawman, saying that he's going to kill his soon-to-be bride, and all sorts of things. He keeps asking for the candy stick that he's got in his hat, which is a plot point, because later on when he sucks on it for a bit, there's like a file inside it that he uses to like lockpick the chains. We get a brief flashback to the heist that he's been arrested for, and we see just how much of a dark, unlikable figure he is, because not only was he killing people and robbing from people, but he was letting his goons rape the women and things like that. Except one of his guys, he even says Ronnie Jeeks has more Catholic tastes, implying he is not interested in women, basically. Right. So very, very kind of dark underbelly sort of characters. Everything's very sinister. And sets him up as a complete bastard before he even becomes a vampire, which is interesting. And obviously, of course, being that this is set in 1880, and he's the same age when we saw him in the main story, we kind of already get a hint that, okay, clearly he's immortal, and he's not aged since. But he gets his lockpick, he attacks everyone on the train. The train, hits whatever the other guys have put in the tracks. It tumbles over. They're going to kill everyone but Skinner. They're going to kill everyone who's there. The lawman kind of fights back a little bit, but ultimately, the writer who's writing this story, who's a much younger man here, is like hiding behind a rock, and he kind of sees what's going on. The lawman gets shot from Skinner, although we find out that it's just a grazing. But ultimately, when they go after Percy, who's the owner of the bank, who wanted them arrested in the first place, they shoot him like 3 or 4 times, and probably the best panel of the whole book is after he's been shot, he stands back up and he's just in silhouette, much like the ending of the main story, but you do get the red of the blood dripping from the bullet holes, and it just looks phenomenal. And he jumps in and bites Skinner, and the writer sees this, and we get a page of just chaos of him biting Skinner, and Skinner shooting at him. Really good stuff. And Percy just kind of walks off with an umbrella. It almost looks like the Penguin from Batman Returns with his umbrella. Just walks off like Danny DeVito with bullet holes into the night. And so there are survivors, the rest of the people do survive for the most part, including the writer. So it's like, this is just the beginning. So not only do we have the continuation of Pearl's story, we'll have the continuation presumably from... I don't remember how often it comes back. I'm assuming the entire first arc has these backups.
Yeah.
So...
Yep, first 6 issues.
Yeah, that sounds right from memory. So that was the first issue of American Vampire. I think what's interesting, because the book is going to go through so many time periods in each arc, I think it is kind of neat that the first story, the first 6 issues, does have a backup that establishes that we're going to be dealing with different time periods, because the vampires do live these long times. In fact, the reason why we're starting in 1925 is because we're going to see Pearl, when she becomes a vampire, in different eras. We're going to see her through different eras of recent history that we understand and know. So and that's one of my favorite things about the book, is that it plays with that and really plays with the different time periods. And I think having the first issue even already give us 2 of them in such a significant amount. I remember the first time I read this though, almost feeling betrayed that there was so many pages left, and then I finished the main story and I was like, oh shit, it goes on to a different story. I wanted this to continue because I really liked it.
And then you read the other half and you're like, this is pretty damn good too.
Yeah. So the second trade really picks up the time stuff, right? Because it switches focus. And then by the time we get to the third has my favorite story.
Yeah, because the
Like,
third.
one of my favorite stories ever in comics.
Yeah, because the third also has the first mini tie-in, and
Yep.
then
Yeah.
the fourth or fifth has the second mini tie-in, sort of bundled with them.
Yep.
So,
Pretty good value trades in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually have I have all the single issues in Comixology, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you're interested, they'll be on sale again at some point, I'm sure.
it is buy one get one
Right.
free right now if you just want them for a reasonable price. It's not as good as some of the other sales, but it's still. I mean, if you want to read them, it's a good price to get them
Yeah.
at.
Well, the first mini has art by as much as I like Albuquerque, has Murphy art in it, set in World War II, so involves American soldiers versus Nazi vampires.
What more can
Basically
you ask for,
Overlord.
right?
Yeah, it's why I loved Overlord so much. Same vibe. But yeah, I have that signed by Snyder, and I'm waiting for a Murphy thing so I can get that and then frame it. So
Here we are.
one of my favorite stories in all of comics.
No, really good, really good. I think the first issue's off to a great start.
Yep.
The pacing's good, and I think it's smart that it doesn't go any further than it does, and doesn't try to squeeze in more. Even though it does leave me wanting more, because I feel like
It's
there's not a whole lot of story advancement. But honestly, if they tried to put more story in it, I'd feel like they were shortchanging the introduction to the character. So I think it's just the right balance.
yeah, so, and it's Snyder. But I feel he hasn't become Scott Snyder yet.
This is peak Snyder. I think he's better in this than he is
That's
these
what I'm
days.
saying.
Yeah.
You could say this is where he hits the perfect medium, where he's still a little bit reserved because he can't do whatever he wants, and he works really good with Albuquerque. So
Have you guys read Severed from him?
no,
Oh, it's so good.
I read the first issue of it for sure, maybe the first two.
It's like a 5 or 6 issue mini. I don't know. I just read the trade.
Yeah.
And it's just this limited mini horror story, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. So that American Vampire issue 1's very good. I mean, I guess I'll read it. It's a 9. It's a 9. Yeah. So there you go. Which takes us to the last book of the week, which is Connor's final Patreon book. Obviously, I ordered these to sort of alternate rather than giving them double back to back. So Undiscovered Country issue 1, Scott Snyder, and you can tell us the artist because it was too hard to type.
And also Snyder and Charles Soule are writing
right,
together, and it is Giuseppe Camuncoli on the art.
Yes, I'll copy and paste that in later. There's no way I was going to just guess the spelling of that. So
yeah,
let's have it.
So this is a brand new book. This actually only came out a couple of weeks ago. So I picked it up and just held off reading it until I had the right week to do it on the show. And it's this was something that they announced a few months ago, and we didn't really know exactly what it was when they announced it. They were like, "Hey, America's been cut off for 30 years, and now the doors are opening. What's in there?" And it wasn't entirely sure what it was going to be. Like, was it America locked themselves away, or were they quarantined? I think they might have made it more clear as it got closer to the release. But that initial pitch was intriguing, so I was already kind of somewhat interested in the book anyway. But this gave me a good excuse. But so this book opens, and immediately the first establishing panel tells you quite a bit. So just you're at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 nautical miles from the former coastline of California. So already you're going, okay, former coastline.
So what you're saying here is that Lex Luthor's plan in Superman the movie worked, and he has created a new coastline.
That is exactly what happened.
So it's a real estate scheme. That's all it is.
I'll tell you right now, not too much real estate going on. But yeah, so we're following this helicopter that's coming in, and there's a crew on board of this mixture of people, and they're like, they've got this famous air wall that they're like, we thought there'd be someone contacting us to tell us that they've opened a gate in the air wall for us. And they're like, yeah, well, I really hope it does, because we're going like 300 miles an hour, and if we go into that, we're all just screwed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one of them's like, hey, hang on, static electricity. I can feel it in my hair going frizzy. And she's like, that means it's open. because she remembered some Supermax prison on the gates that they used when they opened it. It had that effect on the air around it. So she's like, okay, we're good. And then they go through and they're like, right, let us be the pilot's like, right, let me be the first to welcome you to the United States of America. And you see, this new coastline of a giant border wall, like big stone concrete wall. It's pretty big, like guns all along it, like big turrets and stuff. And you're like, holy shit, these guys really lock themselves off, because all the guns are obviously pointing outwards. And you're like, what the hell's going on? And they're talking about how they're making history now. This is the closest anyone from the outside has been to America in 30 years. And then a missile starts coming at them, and they're like, what's going on? What's happening? And that's where we cut away from them for the first time. So there's a few flashbacks during this story, but that was the opening, which was already pretty interesting. This is a brand new issue one. It gives you quite a lot of context there of, okay, 30 years that America's been completely shut off. They've utterly fortified themselves. They've got this technology for this air wall that no one could penetrate. Like what happened? Why? And some of that's answered later, but some of it definitely isn't. But we cut away to 1 week earlier, and we're in Athens, and it's labeled as Alliance Euro Afrique. So there is a European and African alliance as one of the big superpowers in the rest of the world. We learn later on the other one is I'll get there. It's some sort of Asian zone. There's an exact name for it later, but we're introduced to this doctor who's trying to help this kid who is dying from sky fever. There's something's wrong with the air. The sky is falling as they keep on it. There's all this dust essentially, and the dust is extremely infectious, and it makes them extremely ill. So there's all these just makeshift shelters everywhere just to cover everything, just like canopies. And then a couple of helicopters come down. A guy comes out in a gas mask and he's wearing an umbrella. Not wearing, he's holding an umbrella. So he was wearing the gas mask and holding the umbrella. I don't know if I said those the wrong way around, or if I just said wearing for both. And then some kids try and come and jump him. They're like, give us the roof. And he's like, this ain't a roof, it's an umbrella. They're like, nah, anything that keeps the dust away is a roof now. He pulls a gun out on them and they run off to go and get more people to come back. But the kids died during this conversation. And this mystery guy is like, talking to the doctor. And she's like, you're Charlotte Graves, it's her name, and she said, you're known for your highly illegal research into treatment on this sky virus. She's like, and she's not hiding that. She's trying to find a cure, and she's like, if you think I can help you find my brother, so already you're like, okay, so our brother's someone as well. But then he talks about how, hang on, we got a message from America. And it's impossible. We know it's impossible. It's completely unheard of. But you're going to have to come with us. So she goes with him because the kid's dead. So there's nothing more she could do. And then we cut back to the present. The missile hit them, and they've crash landed in America. They're in the desert. Is how it appears. And there's a lot of bickering between all these people, as they all think, oh, one of them must have colluded with the Americans, and they were given these very specific instructions to follow as to why to get them safe passage, but one of them must have done something to betray that for whatever reason. And they're accusing like one person. He's like, well, why would I do that? I was on the helicopter as well. I just got shot down too, so that would be just stupid. They're like, Joel, there's nothing else we can do. We got told about a lantern, I think it was, like a skylight. It's shining like a beacon, which was what the message said, a shining beacon. And they're questioning what it actually is because they can see this light. They're like, is it some sort of, like a lighthouse? But they use it on the land because of all the dust and the storms. And they're like, well, we got nothing better to do, so let's head towards it. And let's explore along the way. And then we cut back again 4 days earlier, and we're in Istanbul this time. And we see the message, and we get a message. It's basically an offer saying, we've been paying attention to all of you. We may have cut ourselves off from the rest of the world, but we've been watching. There's what was the other one? So there's the two new empires, the Euro-African Alliance and the Pan-Asiatic Prosperity Zone. So this is going on, and you're like, okay. And his offer is, come to us, send us, these diplomats, from both sides, and we will negotiate a cure for the sky virus that we have. And maybe we'll consider reopening our borders if it goes well. And the reason they're offering this is because he's done the maths on he's done the science on the virus, and it's like, hey, you've got like 6 months until there's no coming back from this. You're all dead. Society's over. So you might want to go along with this. And we cut to the room, and it's most of the people who are on the helicopter, and they're debating what they're going to do, and if his 6-month timeline is real. And the doctor that we met earlier is like, yeah, honestly, 6 months is probably being generous. We might have less than that, but definitely by 6 months. We meet her brother here, who is I think he's like a military trained guy, but both the empires hate him, which is why he's here, because it's kind of neutral in a way. And also we learn that those two are actually immigrants from America. They came out of America when they were younger. Their parents sent them out, but they know their parents are actually high up important officials of some sort. We don't know exactly what. But they're like, hey, do you guys recognize this guy who's sending us the message? And she's like, yeah, I mean, he was at the house sometimes. They definitely knew him. His name was Dr. Sam Ermlin, I think, something like that. But he's known enough. He had a reputation that they do recognize him and like, okay, this seems legit. So I guess we're gonna have to go. So we come back to the present. They're in the desert, and they're crawling, and then they find this TV, like an old CRT TV, strung up in a tree, and they're like, what's going on? And then they look over this ridge, and there's a big plane, and then it kind of channels Mad Max in a way. So they're looking back at their crashed wreckage, and you see all these all beat up cars, tankers, and such show up. There's like a camper van RVs and stuff. You've got a car with like a wind sail on it to help, and then there's some like extra weird stuff where there's extremely colorful fish and on the land that are people are riding on them. And it's like, what's going on? This is weird. Because these creatures are surreal, and they pop out so much. They're these bright, vibrant, like there's a big long eel with like 6 tongues. And when I say long eel, I mean it's like 3 or 4 cars worth long, and it's bright yellow and red and orange, and it's just got people riding on it. But then the main guy steps forward to them, and he is riding a bison. Okay. And it's a pretty evil looking bison. It's all red eyes and the nose ring and stuff. But this guy, you don't see his face. He's wearing like this, like almost like tinfoil style stuff that he's wearing. And like big like orange ski goggles, and it's this strange look. And they're all kind of wearing this. And he's like, no, you've invaded the United States of America. This is unacceptable. And they're like, no, we were invited. This is all a mistake. And he's like, no. You all know the rules, and no foreign boots on American soil. And he has the bison bite off one of their feet to make the point. It's pretty gruesome, and it's the pilot, because they left the pilot behind because he was too injured. So they're like, hey, we're going to go find someone. We'll come back and get you. So they're on most of the group is on this ridge looking back on this. And it's pretty violent. They realize that, hang on, this isn't the rest of the group. They must be over there. You know, all the raiders. So they're pointing, and they all march out on their beasts and their cars and their other miscellaneous vehicles. And they're like, right, and the gang's like, right, we need to run, go through this pass. There's a pass here, so it's got to go somewhere. Otherwise, why would anyone have made it? And they run over, they go through the other side, and they go, shit, because there's a big, massive fortress on the other side, moving fortress, with all these cars and again tankers, and there's like a tractor pulling a house. It is like one of them, but then there's like octopuses, stuff. Like there's a big giant spider. There's all sorts of crazy shit going on, and it's kind of it's visually amazing. Is the way it looks. Matt Wilson's colors here are spectacular. They completely pop in a very realistic way in this world, because the colors are mostly fairly muted. Even though they're bright, vibrant colors, they're still quite dull in the way they're presented. But these kind of alien kind of fish and monsters just pop out entirely. But someone comes out from a cave behind them, and he's all covered up. He's like, "Hey, no, quick, all of you this way." He's like, "Look, we ain't got time for any fighting. Look, I got this American flag, and you come with me." And they're like, "Well, we haven't really got any other option, so we might as well." And he takes them down into these caves, and he's like, "Who are and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "All right, quiet, because we can't make too much noise, or the Destiny Man will find us, and and we're the silent minority, and there's this underground society living here." And he's like, "Okay, the two Graveses, the brother and sister, they can come with me. The rest of you, I want you to stay here." And they show what's left of the land of the free, and it's this map of America all divided up into the different territories. So there's Destiny, the Code Lands, the New People, Purple Mountain Kingdom, Tempest, the Shining Sea, Nox, and the Red Glare, and they all have their own symbols and territories carved up, and it's a very rough drawing. This it's just kind of enough that you get the idea. And there's a path charted through these territories that goes in a spiral around, from the outside of America into the center. And you have to, that's why you'll have to begin the spiral walk to the heartland. You have to go through. You can't just cut straight through. You have to go all the way around for whatever reason. And so that's what the plan is. And the doctor, she's like, what plan? What are you talking about? We're on a diplomatic mission. We were invited here to find a disease. And the guy's like, I didn't send any message, and I don't know why you're here, but I know that you are here, and I know who you are. And there was a prophecy that said you'd come looking for me. And he goes, and he pulls off the mask, and he's like, my name's Sam Elgin, and it's the doctor from the message. He goes, I want you to save America, and he's doing the classic, the war poster, we need you kind of pose. Mm-hmm. But the key difference here is this guy looks much older than what we saw in the video message earlier. He maybe even a full 30 years. He's grizzled. He's got a big, massive scar across his face. And you're like, okay, so when was that message sent? Is someone doctored that, or was it sent 30 years ago? And someone was it recorded that long ago? If it was, how did they know about the Sky virus? All these things. It's really fascinating. It's a great introduction because there's this core cast of characters, and you kind of get to know them just enough that you get to know the Doctor the most, but the others kind of there playing off.
I think Matt Sean looked 7 times during this wonderful review.
I'm sorry.
It just keeps going.
I know, it's like 40 pages. It's 40 pages, and it's a lot denser than the American Vampire issue because...
I'm also kind of only half listening because I want to read it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think you'd enjoy it, Matt, because it is kind of really great. All this stuff, this introduction, it's all this world building. It's kind of surreal as to what the hell's going on in this America. How did this happen? We still don't really know. There's a bit of stuff in the back matter that kind of gives you some ideas. It was like 8 years before the wall went up. They kind of developed this air wall at DARPA. There was a trade war with China, who called in their outstanding debt from the US and immediately devalued the dollar and there was this global recession that but it hit the US the hardest because obviously it was the dollar that fell.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all this stuff, and it's like, okay, this is all this really incredible world building stuff that is wrapped up in some decent character work and a mystery. But it is the world building that is the star here, where you're traversing the edges of America here. We're right at the edge. Start this spiral walk into the heartland, and see how the different areas change.
It sounds like Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, kind of in some ways.
The Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah. But it's really interesting to read. This is a great first issue. It's like I'll give it a 9. Yeah.
It's finally over.
Well, I'm sorry it was a long, dense issue.
When patrons are picking books for Connor, please don't pick something that's going to take him this long to explain.
Honestly, I don't think the second issue will be as bad. It's just that, okay, we're setting up the whole concept of what this is, and it's such a higher concept than American Vampire, right? Where
short
it's
and
vampires in the past.
Short and snappy, easy to explain, but as painful as possible. That is the correct concoction for a Connor Patreon book. Yeah. That's the perfect amount.
I can definitely recommend this to anyone who was kind of interested.
Well, that will take us on to the section of the show where you pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel/moment, favourite cover, favourite artist, and of course top 5 books of the week. And what an excellent selection we've got to pick from this week. So, Matt, your favourite panel/moment, if you please.
All right, so it wasn't going to be Basketful of Heads, so I wanted to do something different because I figured that would be everyone else's. But since I get to go first, it's going to be when she lops off the dude's head. Viking axe, come on.
Yes. You are nothing if not consistent.
Okay, honestly, either that, Hockey Supergirl, or Shazam.
I was expecting the hockey.
Yeah. I mean, that's there, but then Basketful of Heads is also rad. So. All
right, Connor, what's your pick?
I'm going with Zatanna cutting a hole in her face to have a mouth.
Yeah, that's pretty good too.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Flash. No, I'm not. I'm kidding. But I'm going to go with.
He really loves Ice Wolves.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that Infinite Crisis might have snuck in, but yeah, it's going to be Basketful of Heads. I think I could pick almost any page of this book, to be honest. It's all about the atmosphere. But I think I'm going to go with, not the head, although the head page is great. I'm going to go with cutting off the tip of the foot as the moment, because that's where it really gets violent for the first time, where it feels like, oh, ouch. So I'm going to go with that. That's my pick. So then, best cover of the week. We'll go back in reverse, I suppose. I'll go first. And basically, it was between the two Basketful of Heads covers, although the variant for Shazam was also pretty good by Cho. But I think I'm going to go with the regular Basketful of Heads cover, but the variant is also very good. Connor?
I'm going with the Shazam variant by Cho. I think that's great. And don't get me wrong, the Basketful of Heads, both covers are very good. But I prefer the Cho. Can I say?
I'm going to go with the Batgirl Dotson cover variant. I'm just a sucker for the Dotsons, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, didn't they do that mediocre Teen Titans Earth one? If I remember right?
Yeah, that's why I bought it.
Their art wasn't.
That wasn't their fault. That was Lemire.
I don't remember loving the art in the book, to be honest, but I mean, that's fine.
No, it's fine. I like the pinup-esque style that the Dotsons do.
Yeah, it's great.
So, yeah.
Debatable. So.
This guy. How dare you have a different opinion?
Top art of the week, rather. Carter.
I'm going to go with. Yeah, I'm really torn between two. I'm actually going to edge it to Lopresti for Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis. I thought that was really great art and some of the great things they did and played with, and for the time as well. It just edges out Basketful of Heads, I think.
Well, this is going to shock everyone, but LEOMACS for Basketful of Heads will take my top art of the week. Don't get me wrong, I think Braga on Supergirl was good. I think Infinite Crisis with Lopresti was good, but I think LEOMACS is perfect for that book, and so much of it is based on the slow building atmosphere that the art gives to it. So, Matt, what you got?
Yeah, basically what you just said.
Beautiful.
You took the other options. Also throw in Justice League Dark, that was pretty good too, but no, it's Basketball Heads.
Yeah. Well, I never read that, so I couldn't have picked that.
No, I know.
So, which will lead us on to our top 5 books of the week. So, Matt, if you please.
All right, so number 1's Basketball Heads. If I can remember after all of Connor rambling about Undiscovered Country.
Honestly, I don't think the time of it was that much longer than Pete was.
Yes, but I have a more engaging voice than you do, so...
All right, so yeah, 1's Basketball Heads.
Matt just was listening because he's read that before and he can actually contribute.
This isn't what it cause a fight, but he knows I'm right.
Nope. 1's Basketball Heads, 2's Justice League Dark, 3's Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis, 4 is Supergirl Annual, and 5 is Batgirl.
There you go. Connor?
Basket full of heads, Dark Multiverse, Justice League Dark, and Batgirl even.
And you read Flash, so you can put that in first place.
Oh yeah, I did. I didn't even notice. I'm looking at like what did I do? And I was like, oh yeah, that's there.
Yes. Yeah, Basketball Heads number 1 for me too. Number 2 is Infinite Crisis, Dark Multiverse. Number 3 is Supergirl Annual. Number 4 is Batgirl. Number 5 is Shazam. Leaving off Flash, Action. Yeah, sounds about right. So yeah, kind of a weird week. A couple of great things in there, but obviously we started off in a really bad place. So
it's kind of weird how these Dark Multiverse and Black Label books are becoming
the best,
more consistent.
Yeah. But hey, it's nice to have if the main stuff isn't cutting it necessarily as consistently as it should be. So let's see what's coming next week.
Not a ton.
We got Batman 84, which is the penultimate issue, at least in the main title, for King. We got Batman Universe number 6, the final of the Bendis reprints. We have... Next thing that's worth mentioning, Deathstroke 50, which I think is the final issue as well.
I think it is, yeah.
So that's the end of Priest running that. So we all fell off that, but hey, it's super notable all the same. Then we have there's so many things that we don't, are kind of outside.
There's like dollar comics, facsimiles.
Yeah.
Green Lantern Black Stars 2 of 3, but Connor's not caught up. So.
Yeah, but that's the next one of those. You got Harley Quinn 68. You got Infected Deathbringer issue 1. That's the Donna Troy one. Inferior 5 issue 4. It says of 12 here still, but it's not. It's off 6. We got Justice League 37. Lois Lane number 6. New Year's Evil issue 1, which I love the title of, as I said when it was solicited.
Of course you do.
Because it's the same name as the fantastic slasher movie, New Year's Evil. That is the 100-page or 80-page anthology book for New Year's, instead of a Christmas one-shot this year. Probably...
it does have Joker in a Santa outfit, so I'll probably have some Christmas stories in there too.
Probably, yeah. So that's something we probably won't cover just because it's a big, huge book that's going to be such a mixed bag as these things often are. But that is out next week.
10 stories for $10. Not a bad deal, though.
Sure. Yeah. Superman Up in the Sky issue 6, the last of the King Superman reprints of the Walmart stuff. Same with Wonder Woman Come Back to Me. Issue 6, wrapping up that, and then Young Justice issue 11 to round out the week. So
yeah, not a lot. And as much as Pete said, we probably won't do the New Year's Evil. By my count, unless Pete's still doing any of the reprint ones, which I don't think he is.
No, it's been a while since I've had time for them.
We only have 4 books, I think.
So next week's a question week. We'll be looking for questions from you guys to talk to us.
Get those Patreon books out early before the Hell Week later in December.
Actually, that's weird. Yeah, we'll probably do some Patreon books next week just because it's such a quiet week, even though we just did the previous ones. But yeah, good a reason as any. But
do I read Deathbringer?
Questions next week for sure. Because I've only got Batman.
Yeah, 4. You're the same as me.
Batman, Lois,
Young Justice. Yeah, 4. I got 4.
Young Justice.
Yeah.
I've only got 3, but I mean,
yes. So well worth mentioning. So next week I'll ask on Twitter as well. But if you want to send a question early or a longer question, send that to mftvquestions@gmail.com. That's mftvquestions@gmail.com, and we will answer some questions next week and have some fun doing that since it's such a light week for books. So that is that. Otherwise, though, of course, you can do a couple of different things. You can like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's books if you're on YouTube. Also, ding the bell. Make sure you get notifications. You can, of course, support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. And I keep meaning to do this in the middle and I keep forgetting, but I'll thank the Patreon producers here as I'm doing the Patreon plug. So the Patreon producers for the month of November were David Short, Alistair M, Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, Tyler Hess, and Talking Superman. So thank you to all them. That means they are $20 or up on the Patreon, which you can get over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and you get a lot of bonuses for just $1 per month, and obviously you get higher tiers with other things, voting rights, and obviously eventually producer credits and things like that. But all of our content is basically completely funded by you wonderful people, so go over and see if you want to keep help the content being produced, and you can support us that way. So go and do that. Otherwise, check out other stuff we do. Obviously, me and Connor do television from the Multiverse every week, where we look at the CW shows. And even though it was only Flash and Arrow this week, we somehow went for 50 minutes complaining about how bad Flash is. So,
and it was mostly how bad. I mean, Arrow didn't have the best episode, but it was mostly how bad Flash was, not Arrow.
Flash was garbage this week. I miss Cicada. That is how bad it is right now. I miss Cicada.
Oof.
It's not been a good year for. I mean, this season that. Arrow has been one of the consistently better shows. Yeah,
Supergirl's been rough. Flash has been garbage. Bloodwork, Matt, is like terrible.
Well, Bloodwork wasn't a good character in the 2 issues we got of them.
Well, comic Bloodwork looks like goddamn Joker after this season of Flash in terms of quality.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's rough.
Really not good.
Just absolute trash. So
Batwoman's been fine.
Batwoman's been fine, yeah. Batwoman's the new thing. It's just sort of finding its feet, but it's all right. If not particularly good, but all right. So go check out Television the Multiverse. Check out all the content we have from Fuzz TV. We do movie podcasts such as Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast, or the Atomic Cinema Experiment, the sci-fi movie podcast. Me and Connor review a lot of TV shows typically. Right now doing Mr. Robot and The Mandalorian. I'm also reviewing Watchmen with Tara, so you can go check out all those if you're interested. Watchmen being somewhat relevant as a kind of DC show. So go have a look at all those if you want to. And otherwise, that is us. So thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, guys, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Yeah, pick better stuff for Connor, please.